Alrighty, I hope I've given you guys enough time because I'm about to start. Let me go to the right setting, make sure things are prepared. Okay. There we go. Oops, that's left over. Little kitty cat. Yeah, bye-bye kitty cat. Oops, I forgot I had a kitty cat. And I clicked the wrong setting. Whoops. Here's what I meant to do. There we go. I clicked the wrong one. Let me make sure the brightness is okay. Once again, if you guys have any correction on audio and whatnot, just let me know. I usually do sound checks beforehand, but just in case, always let me know if you want me to check or change something. That is always okay with me. I think we're good to go. Yes, save those options. That way I don't have the white balance all out of whack. Thank you all for showing up. This is the 26th episode of the PenMark private stream that this time is public. Because I like the idea someone made, I think a couple people have said it, where I should once a month at least, maybe I'll change the amount, but normally I want to do some advertisements, basically. I want to show you guys what I do for private lessons, let you be along the ride, and if you want more, then you can support me on Patreon. The color intensity to max. Yeah, I've tried that before. It's kind of weird. I actually want to just show it now that you've mentioned it. It's pretty intense. If my nose wasn't red before, it is now. So, not to mention the lips. Oof. I got that high quality lipstick. But yeah, I think I'm going to add one last thing to the... Here we go. Let me turn down that volume. Good. Toontown was a game as a kid. Okay, so it's been around for a while. I haven't heard of that game at all. I will find out. At least, I hope I will. But yeah, yeah, the color intensity is not the best. But yeah, just in case you guys might recognize this picture, then I'll, or in case you haven't seen it, I'll go ahead and fill you in. This was a picture I started a long time ago for live streams, actually. I demonstrated a couple of these characters, and this is the biggest commission I have ever done yet. It is for my friend Geen, who heard that I wanted more pictures, and he definitely satisfied the challenge, because this is actually missing some characters, and there's some characters to plan into. So there's about 15, it might be up to 17 characters. This is going to be huge. Yes, I think it beats you by a little bit, Jak. Plus they're all full body human, so it actually might, yeah, it barely beats your picture, actually. Now you're making me want to compare the details and find out. Definitely in file size, I think it beats yours by a tiny bit, but yeah, this is a very big picture. I will frequently be taking breaks to recover my voice, which will be an opportunity in case you have any questions or ideas for me to talk about. Just let me know. Because the big thing I do with all these lessons, as you may know or not know, I want you guys to be the guiding force as I talk about stuff. It doesn't even matter right now if you're part of my Patreon or not. Just if you're in the chat and you have a question, even if you're lurking, go ahead and ask. Because I want to be able to talk about anything you're curious about. So, and anytime you guys just want to sit back and listen, I do have a lot to talk about with these pictures. I'll probably be talking about poses for the majority of this until you guys ask otherwise. I tried to keep as much of my tools on screen as possible because I think that's pretty essential when wanting to give lessons, in case I'm switching up layers or clicking on tools, and changing opacity over here. I will do my best to keep it slow enough and easy enough to follow along, but don't hesitate to ask if you want me to repeat something or talk about something completely else that I have not discussed yet. But I think I've given you guys enough time. I also posted the link over on Twitter. I just remembered one more thing I need to do. I need to post this over on the Patreon, which is another little plus there. In case you are on my Patreon and you miss an episode, I keep these all backlogged. So if you're really itching for art lessons and you want to see what I have to offer, I have that over for just $1 over on Patreon. Let me go ahead and click for the link. I'm going to go share that over on my Patreon, and then we can get started. As you can see, there's a lot of characters here, so there's actually probably any amount of thing you could hear. Anything you want to know, anything you want me to talk about, I've got a chance for it here. Welcome aboard, Hattie. I'm doing art lessons today. Normally, these are private every Friday, but I wanted to do another opportunity for you guys to see and participate, because I know everybody's got a different, ability to be able to pay for lessons. So this is an opportunity to still get a little bit. I can share what I can. And I'm not usually one to advertise, so this is my way to do it. Over on Patreon, I offer a lot, prizes included. And one of those is that for $1, I do art lessons every week for literally anything you want to know about art. So let me share that link over on Patreon. I also think I might be talking about the background on this one because I finally figured out a trick that I want to share with you guys on the background here, because it's a really big background. And I think the biggest thing I have to share here are shortcuts to make giant pictures seem easier. Because I obviously know when you're working on something that seems kind of complicated, it's easy to get discouraged and just kind of back out of it. So I want to help demystify that, make it a little bit easier to approach those giant projects that you have in mind but have literally no idea where to start. I want to help you with that. Let me go ahead and type out the description. We are doing a public art lesson today. I'm going back to an old picture for gain. I gotta keep myself on track as I type this, otherwise multitasking is really difficult. So, going back to the old picture for gain. Let me put that on a new paragraph so it's a little easier to read. A lot of characters and details. There's a lot to talk about. As always, if you have any ideas or questions. I've clicked into a new window, so I will get to the chat in a second. I apologize if I've missed something. Okay, almost got it. Questions? Just let me know. Okay, let's do the tags so it's easier for people to find over on Patreon. Okay. And I think some of you know already that I'm not the quickest typer, so I also have to work on that. Okay, this will be the tag lessons. I'll still put it in the same tag there. And there we go. And this one will be public. So there we go, it has been posted. As a reminder for anyone, because last time I had Marshall, one of my patrons, and I've known him for a while, IRL. He was also able to show up, so this little post there will help. Alrighty. And Mart is here. I'm glad you can make it early, Mart. And yes, thank you. Thank you for recapping, Jak, because I was multitasking. A giant commission. Anyway, the picture that you guys have been seeing me work on for Jak, the giant fan poster, is my second biggest commission that I've ever worked on. Hey, and there's Marshall. Welcome aboard, Marshall. I'm glad you could make it again. Gave me a whole lot to talk about last time. And Blue Wolf is here. Welcome aboard. Hopefully I'm saying that word right. I'm not sure if it's blue or if the I changes the pronunciation. It might. But as a bit of a warm-up for you all to get comfortable, I'll mention what I did for the background. And of course, let me know if you have any questions or ideas at any time. Just blurt it out in the chat. That is always okay. Oh, you're with Daryl and Charlie. Oh, cool. Hi, guys. I don't know if you can see this, but hi. Oh, that's good. I haven't heard you guys in a long time. It makes me happy. So, alrighty. Where are we starting? The background. I tried to save copies of the background in different stages so that I could easily demonstrate. So, this is the very original background that I sketched out. Blue E-Wolf. Okay, thank you for that. I'm glad you were correcting me because I noticed the I and was suspecting I was saying it wrong. Okay, so, and also let me know if there's any audio changes at any time because I've found a way to put background music, and from the test I did, I think the audio was fine, but I still want to know your opinions. If anyone is barely hearing me or the music's too loud, that's always okay to let me know. So this was the original sketchy background I did. I literally went ahead and, as you can see, just took a pen without even much of an eraser and just sketched out a background. It's quite messy, but it helps me get my thoughts down. And Hattie asking about criticism. Always take it with a grain of salt. If someone's giving you feedback, if it seems productive to you, if it gives you ideas of how to improve, then take it. But if the criticism doesn't really feel right, if the person seems to be a little too aggressive or trying to get you to force your style into a new way that you don't actually want, then you don't have to take it. You know, this is all, it's actually how with all the tutorial stuff I give here, you don't have to apply any of these techniques, but I offer them in case they give you ideas. Because art's about expression, it's about what you want it to be, and there's probably an infinite number of ways that you could actually do it. So if someone gives you advice, any kind of feedback or tutorial, and it helps you, then go ahead and try it. If you're also stuck and you want to find a new way to improve, try experimenting with that feedback. Doesn't even mean you have to use it later on. I've done times where I heard a tutorial, thought it sounded cool, I tried it out, and after about a month, never used it again. But it gave me ideas, so I'm still glad I heard it. And that's the way I approach all this. Take any of this you want, mix it around, do whatever you want, but hopefully this gives you ideas. And, you know, maybe it's interesting, but... So this was a sketchy background. It is still sketchy because I just wanted to get an idea of where everything belongs. It was made of 2 layers because there's the pen that was making all these lines. Get it? I'm pen making the lines. And there were the colors on a second layer where it's just a layer underneath. I very quickly put down colors that Geen was asking for, and notice they're not blended, they're not complicated, they're very messy, but when you zoom out, it gives you the right feel, and that helped me feel productive. But from there, I kind of wanted to edit it a bit, and so one thing I did right here is I went ahead and took the background, which now I notice a couple details that I'm gonna fix. I noticed with the background, it's separated into depth. You know, you've got a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. In case those terms are confusing, a background is actually broken up into a lot of pieces. So the foreground is the environment that's literally right at your face. So all of these rocks on the ground are super close to the camera. In fact, some of the rocks are closer than the characters. So that's the foreground. The middle ground, as its name suggests, is in the middle, which I have here taken the selection tool and cropped it out. So now I've got the middle ground and foreground on its own little section. And notice that I never really worry if it's perfect, because it's still really scribbly, but it helps me. And just now, I'm correcting things that I made a mistake on, because it's all a work in progress. If you can keep your motivation and keep your flow as you work on the picture, that's going to be way more important than it being perfect, than it looking detailed right off the bat. Because, yeah, I've mentioned in the past, I'm an impatient artist. Despite working on huge pictures, I'm constantly like, I don't want to work on this part anymore. Let's jump to this part. And the bigger the picture gets, you actually have more and more places that you can just switch to when you need to keep your mind free flowing. So I chopped out the middle ground there, which, as you saw at first, it was all one picture. But then I went ahead, I took the selection tool and chopped out what I want to have as a foreground and made that a separate layer. One of my social, political views on the economics or kitten paraphernalia, I'd have to ask my kitten how she feels about catnip, because my kitten has not yet discovered catnip. I worry, actually, because I do not know if she needs it. She's already a crazy ball of energy who kept me awake last night. It's becoming a trend, actually, so... But from there, I'm going to put a pin in it and move back onto the art. I actually liked that question, though. That was kind of funny. I'm trying not to keep this just art stuff. Though these are art lessons, I'll still try to change up the pace a little bit. I do think she's a bit young for catnip. I agree with that, Cody. And actually, in the last episode, both Marshall and Miracusa both helped me a whole lot in learning about computer tech. So it was a lesson for me as well as I'm giving a lesson to you guys, because I am in the very near future needing to upgrade my setup, and I do not know much about computers. I'm learning as I go, and so yeah, I guess having that transparently on camera while I do these lessons, to me, that's like a good example of like what I'm also having to learn and how to approach it when you don't know anything. You obviously you're gonna feel confused when it's something new, and it's easy to be not motivated, to be really discouraged, and it's like, nah, I don't even want to do it. What's the point? Because I have that a lot with computer tech. I hear people talking about graphics cards and all this stuff, and I just immediately, my brain fuzzes, and I'm just like, I don't want to hear it. You almost don't want to hear it. But I know I need it, and I know I want it. So I'm very thankful when I get help about that. And you have to put any kind of pride or anything, throw that out the window when you're getting advice that you really, really do want from friends or people who are respectful to you. I guess you're keeping enough pride just so that if someone's rude to you, don't take their advice. If you're asking about that, Hattie, take the advice of the person who feels right. You know, they actually seem like they're trying to help you. Then go ahead and listen to it. But again, it's also about your goal. And so I'm saying that, yeah, Vivi's gonna... I haven't dabbled in drugs. What are you talking about? It was just a fine weed in Hobbiton. Those hobbits were offering it. I didn't know any better. And Bird does not come for art streams, he comes for people. Aw, well that makes me happy, Bird. Thank you. I try to keep a little bit of entertainment in this. And as I'm starting to learn, it's actually not by doing anything weird, it's just talking, being me, which it's so easy in front of a camera to want to do, like, extravagant plans and whatnot. But, yeah, I have to remind myself that it's actually more productive just to be me. So, yeah. And so, yeah, I'm trying to keep things fleshed out. There will be a small break where I am going to eat food, because I'm going to have these lessons a little longer so that you guys have enough opportunity to enjoy it, ask as much as possible. We can cover a lot of subjects. Gassy. I'm not being gassy. I almost went into the Gollum voice. But yeah, I will take a tiny break at about the hour mark, maybe hour and a half, so that I can eat a little bit of food. It'll give you time to do a restroom break or to get food yourself. Maybe get a drink of water. I've got several drinks next to me because a lot of talking means my voice will get tired. So with this middle ground broken up, I then had, technically, this whole other background as a copy behind it. And in order to create a lot of depth, this is the quick shortcut for backgrounds that I haven't done that much in the past. And it's only been the past couple months that I'm finally doing it more and realizing how effective it is. basically you just take the background and you go into your filters and blur it. Because the further things are from you, the blurrier they get. Obviously, if you're on a mountain or a hill or anywhere where you can see really far away, it's pretty hard to see the details 2 miles away or further. So if you really want to create a lot of depth, especially even in a small picture where it's just on the other side of the room, you know, you have a character sitting in their room and there's a bed behind them, and you really want to create depth and make it look really 3D, separate the layer of them and the background, and have the background, which is that bed in that room, theoretically, make that bed in the background blurry. Because then you're going to create a camera being in focus, like I'm about to do right here. I'm going to take the blur tool, as you can see right here, and I'm going to blur it until I get it to a satisfied degree. And what's better is if you keep the layer of the foreground and middle ground, keep that one on. I guess I can turn off these characters here. Keep this foreground on, and then turn on that background that you want to blur. Let's find out which one it was. I think it's this one. Yeah. Take this background and then start to blur it so you can see the change in real time. Because now, look right here. The background's going to get really blurry. I'm exaggerating it for effect. But notice that the foreground is still obviously super clear. This created a ton of depth once my computer decides to load, because it does autosave. Notice now, this middle ground seems way closer to us. I'll need to clean up this little mess of a rock. But notice that now there's a huge division, and that background really does look super far away. This is more than I would do, but it gets the point across. It still looks really, really far away. That's not the one I picked. My final version is going to be something like this, to which I also chopped out that spaceship, because I think Geen wants this spaceship to be a little bit closer than, say, the galaxy, the whole space scene. If he did want it to be pushed back a little bit, I could go ahead and blur it some like this. Maybe here it's somewhat blurry, but not as much. So yeah, that's one tool that I've been using a whole lot more recently and realizing how effective it is. I used it on Jak's picture because his has a lot of depth with the grassy hills, the trees, and then that whole sunset in the background. I went ahead and started chopping it up and blurring some of the further elements to add a lot of depth. It's a really, really quick shortcut, and obviously it helps a lot. So when working on a picture for someone, when it's a commission like this, and I'm not sure all of the decisions yet, you know, there might be something halfway through that I show it to Geen and he decides, actually, can you change the color? Or he wants me to revise something. I want to get a lot of progress done, but just keep in mind he might want something changed. So that's something that I frequently am thinking about. I'm always trying to keep extra copies of a background like this, so that if I were to show both of these blurs and Geen decided he wanted the darker one, I wouldn't have to suddenly only have this version and then go, how do I change it back? I've saved a copy. So now there's 2 different versions and I can just switch. So there are a lot of little like fail-safe backup plans when working on a really big picture. Now, each of these characters is maybe halfway done, because if you zoom in, obviously, these are kind of like notes. On a really big picture, you want to save time. So I've put just enough detail. Occasionally I get impatient and I start adding shading and whatnot. Some of these characters you've seen in previous episodes, which I just realized is like almost a year ago. Ugh. I didn't even go back and watch those yet. Oh, that's gonna be weird. Because, okay, tiny little break just to talk is that, this is the pacing I usually do, just so that it adds a variety of, sometimes you can listen to the art lesson, let it process in your head, then I switch, then I come back. This gives you a chance to also think about other art things if you have a question. But so, The other day I went back to some of my really old videos just because I was curious, and oh, some of them were painful to watch. But whenever you have that, whether it be just watching yourself on camera or looking at old pictures you've drawn or anything in the past, when that's cringy to watch, to me that's the sign that you're growing, so it's a good sign. And also, I think that everybody has that with their own self. You spend all of your time looking at everybody else. We don't see ourselves as we do things, so we don't really know what it looks like. And most of the discomfort when you get to see yourself is, whoa, who's that? Because you're not used to seeing yourself. It's not actually because these fears are true. It's just because you're not used to seeing yourself in a camera or see your own art 2 years later. Keep that in mind, because that's a illusion we put on ourselves all the time. That's just a quick little life lesson with Pen. You guys know that I like to ramble, but I try to I try to pace myself. But yeah, a lot of these characters are halfway done. Some of them a little closer. Like, she's actually pretty well done. Notice all of their outfits are gray, except for Rocket back here, because I actually know what Rocket's colors are. With a lot of these characters, I think Geen was going to double check with each person, because each character here is a persona that belongs to someone. I know a couple of them. A lot of them I don't know. I believe this one right here is Majira, who's a YouTuber. Here's Thori. I've worked for him a couple times, and I've done pictures for him. The sassy voice, the gassy voice. I don't know, there's lots of sassy voices. And, oh, thank you, Marshall. You're making me blush, that's good to know. Hi, guys. I think the biggest thing that's still on my mind, actually, when I do these is how fast I'm talking. So it is good to know that if this is easy enough to follow along. I get carried away, and it happens. But yeah, I've worked with Thori before. I've done a picture with these three before for Geen. I've never met any of them, but I'm trying to remember their names. I know this one is Sorn on the right. I almost pointed with my finger. You can't see my hand. But it's nice to hear you listen and talk about arting. Yes. That's one of the things that I could probably ramble for forever. So I like to, put it to use and have you guys actually, hopefully be able to take something from it. That's my goal. Whether I'm effective, we'll find out. You gotta learn as you go. It's kind of the thing. So it doesn't really do good to dwell on it and look back and go, am I effective? Practice anyway. So yeah, this one I know she is Sorn. Trying to remember these two without looking at my layers. So let's double check in here. Kira, okay, that's her name. And Kai? Okay, Kai. So see, I'm learning some people here. I have them all in folders. Anyone I don't have in folders yet is either still being retrieved by Geen. He's still gathering reference pictures for me. He may have actually already finished by now. If you're watching this again, hello, Geen. I almost said a Geen, but you know what I meant. Apologies for the burps. They come and go. But yeah, I have about half the characters down, and there's still another half the characters to go. I know that Groot, I am Groot, is going to be placed in the background here, because makes sense. You can't really have Rocket without Groot. I think it's going to be giant Groot, actual adult Groot. I won't go into spoilers for anyone Guardians of the Galaxy. Obviously, this picture is Guardians of the Galaxy themed. And so everyone's got their own characters in the setting with literally any weapon they want. And wow, I can tell a year has passed because I'm looking at all of this and I'm noticing a lot of changes I would make right now. But yeah, especially this gun that's supposed to be a sniper rifle, but kind of looks like a paintball gun still. Maybe that's the color, but yeah, I'm gonna change that. And originally this was put on pause because Geen had other pictures he wanted to see from me, and there were just other things to do, and this was a really big picture. One of the things is that some of these poses hadn't been decided yet. Main of which would be my character here. I get to... Geen decided to put me in the picture, which I'm very thankful. That's cool. I've known Geen for a while now, so that was really cool. And so, obviously, rabbit ears, it's kind of the sign for me there. Yeah, okay, I'm glad you noticed that too, Jak. But yeah, it's definitely aged a bit. How do you saying whenever you draw a character's face, you draw it again and it looks different? Yes, I actually still have that even now. Quickest solution is just to draw that character a whole lot more. I got that a lot from my webcomic. If you do comics or animation would do it, where you get to draw the character over and over and over. Because you draw the character 10 or 20 times, you'll start to notice some themes with their features. You'll start to notice, oh, I keep sometimes drawing the nose kind of pointed, and I need to stop doing that. Or that's the nose you want. Once you've drawn the character 50 times, 100 times, you almost get sick of the character, which means you'll start to notice what you really like and you really don't like. So if you're feeling that with a character where you've drawn them and like half the time they don't even look right, but half the time they did, or that one time they did, just look at those pictures where you got it right. Study that one picture you did. Practice that one. Try to recreate that one. It obviously sounds like that's so much repetition, which is why in a comic it's hard to keep going. And with animation, it can even in a quicker way, you can get tired of the character. But when you do that, you're going to quickly discover the flaws in the character that you don't like, and in the quirks you do like. So that's my biggest tip, is just if you're feeling like a character is hard to draw, just draw them more. It's a really straightforward answer, but that's how I've solidified some characters in my head. With my webcomic, it's been Rose and that Armadillo. Those are the two little robot Armadillo. And there are a lot more characters coming up, that, including Gingy. You all have met Gingy a couple times. And as I get into the other characters, there's going to be a lot of redrawing. I'm going to be filling sketchbooks that never are shown, except on Patreon. But yeah, I couldn't help it. I have to learn the whole advertising thing. But, and I don't like it. But, I will be doing a whole lot of redrawing. Just tons of it. Because by the time it shows in the comic book, I want it to hopefully look consistent. That's still not going to happen. You can look at any comic series that goes on for a long time. The artist is still going to change. So if you feel that, Hattie, or anyone else watching this, if your art style's changing and you're like, oh, my old pictures look like crap, why did I do that? It's like, that's completely normal. That is just going to happen. So yeah. I don't even have an ad for Patreon on screen. Well, I know, I'm glad you said that, Jak, but I know why I don't. It's because this is the format I usually use for the private ones. So let's change that. Let's get an image. Yeah, an image. Add existing Patreon. Papa, is that obvious enough? Okay, so let's minimize that a little bit and place it probably right there so it's not in the way of the timeline as you're watching this. I think that's good right there. Okay. There we go. A little bit of trim. I think that's close enough right there. I'm glad you mentioned that. So, that's actually, yeah, that's the shortcut, Hattie, for getting used to a character, is you have to redraw them over and over. And obviously, when you've done like 20 times or 30 times, it's obviously going to start to get annoying, because you're like, I'm so tired of drawing this character. Go ahead and take a break, but then when you come back, you'll notice there are some parts that bug you and some parts you like. And you'll want to obviously keep those parts you like, and then change your focus to only be on the parts you don't like, so that you can change them. Rose had that problem with her nose, with her hat. There were a couple things that every time I drew them, I drew it differently and I didn't like it. So the more you do that, you're going to start to notice it. If you only draw a character 5 times, it's going to be hard to notice what's wrong. You're just going to feel like something's wrong and be like, oh, I don't like this. I'm Batman, and I don't like my drawings. So yeah, you gotta You gotta change things up a little bit, and it's okay to sometimes take a break too. And moving on to a new topic, just so that I can show you guys more stuff. This silhouette was mainly, these are all just to like fill in where the character belongs. I mentioned this before in terms of saving time and feeling productive. I, on a very big picture, will put in blobs like this literally just to figure out where they go. And I changed up their colors. They're not even the colors I'm gonna keep. It's not randomly a gray versus red team. There's nothing like that. These are just random blob colors that I changed up so that I can keep track of different characters next to each other. And from there, I may not even keep this layer where I'm showing where they are. I literally am gonna turn down the opacity so that they're sort of there as a hint, and then I'm gonna draw on top of it. And if that background behind me is distracting, I can turn on a blank color. So now it's easier for me to focus. It's just a little like placeholder to not have the background distract me, and then I can turn it back off when I'm ready to move on. Or a compromise that I do is both. I've turned it on at half opacity so that I can see the background, but not as much. So now I'm ready to draw on top of this what my character wants to do. And I think I'm going to test out a couple of characters poses right in front of you for my character here. You guys have seen them all over the screen anyway, which, funny enough, the practice for drawing little icons has been almost the only practice I do for drawing my mascot, PenMark, on the screen here. I actually only get to really practice him when he's on screen. I haven't done a proper reference sheet. I barely draw him in pictures otherwise. It's only been for icons and stuff, which is why I make myself do a lot of live streams. It's good practice, and it's the only way I ever draw my character. So yeah, it's two stones with one bird. And you'll notice I'm already zooming out and then zooming in all the time. I apologize if the zooming is really disorienting, but the reason I do that is to double check how does the whole picture look as a whole. Because a lot of the times, here's an internet hack, I guess. A lot of the times, your images that you're uploading are going to be seen as thumbnails, or at least shown on a phone so it's small. To see how it looks as a whole, zoom out your picture really far and see how it looks. The reason I changed the background was because the old background wasn't really that visible. It was kind of dull. And so I didn't notice that when I'm up close. When I'm up close, I'm like, this is pretty good. I like this. But when I zoomed out, I was like, I mean, it's kind of bold. I can see the horizon there, but I kept feeling like it needed something. So that's why I changed to this background, because now it's really bold. And if I didn't even know what this image was, and I was scrolling through my timeline or going through my notification feed, and I saw this image as opposed to this one's a little dull, and maybe I wouldn't notice it compared to this one. There are lots of little things you'll notice if you zoom out really far. If you only draw on paper, you can do this hack all the time, which I learned in high school, and I didn't realize to use it on the computer until later, but you can literally just hold it away from you. You can literally just take the sheet of paper and just put it on the other side of the room, walk across the room, and look at your picture that way. It's not because it's going to be posted anywhere. Maybe the reason that'll be productive is that you'll notice, that silhouette feels weird. Like the outline of the character, their pose, feels weird. And it's easy to forget that if all you see is this. If you're always really close up on the picture, you're looking at details, which are obviously really good. You know, I get really obsessed with details, so I completely get that. But probably my biggest flaw I've had forever is that I get obsessed with details and forget to see the big picture. And that whole term, the big picture, is called composition. That's the fancy term that I use these rabbit ears for, these quotations. Composition means how do all of the elements on the page fit together. So, quickest way to do that, zoom out really far. What if your details suck and you can't see them? Well, it would be taking time to only work on details and have that be your only focus. Probably for a good, like, all of school, I was obsessed with details. So I didn't really focus on anything except details. So when I look back at my high school work, and this actually applies to what if you think your details suck, don't worry about the other stuff. Don't worry about your colors. Don't worry about your composition. Don't worry about the other stuff. Because I literally spent all of school being obsessed with details. So if you go through my high school and middle school and all that stuff, I was obsessed with trying to draw super fancy details. But when you looked at the whole picture and you looked at the, like, when it's posted on a wall or something, it felt kind of off. Things were always kind of lopsided or weird. But I was working on my detail. I wasn't working on the other stuff. And that's a big thing with any skill. If you're working on music and you're not worried about how fast are you playing, you're not worried about the tempo. You're just worried about, I need to get these notes right. And this fingering is weird. And because you mentioned this, Bird, now I'm thinking of trumpet. But like even with piano, I've barely tried piano before, so I can kind of relate to that one. If I was trying to learn something on piano and the fingering was really weird, I'll use this hand. If I was like, it's hard to go from my pinky to my middle finger. This fingering is so weird. Oh, it's like a spider. I'm trying to get this, you know, all the fingering from these notes are difficult. Don't worry about the tempo. Don't even worry about like, oh, this one's supposed to be mezzo piano, and this one's supposed to be fortissimo. You know, they're supposed to be soft to loud. Oh, look at this complicated stuff. Don't even worry about that. Just worry about, okay, can I go in the right order? Spend a week on it. Spend a month on it going, oh, how do I get this fingering right? Once you get that part right and it starts to build muscle memory, then you go, oh, okay, I can kind of do that. And see how many times you can do it without messing up. Once you get that right, you go, okay, now that I feel the muscle memory and I can get the notes right, now I'm going to try and speed it up. And then you speed it up and you keep trying to get it until now it's the tempo and it's almost the actual song. So that's how I would apply it from music. With art, basically, focus on one thing at a time. If you get yourself caught up in everything at once, you will evenly progress, maybe. But yeah, it'll feel like, there's so many things I need to think about. So go ahead and sometimes go, I'm not thinking about colors. Colors are complicated. I'm just focusing on details. And yeah, pick one thing at a time. What you're seeing with me is that I've been doing art for forever, and even though people are like, oh, look at this bragging right, to me it actually sometimes feels stale. Sometimes I almost have the feeling of going, I wish I could just do other stuff. I'm always drawing. I want to do something else. And so the productivity here is that I can take what I've learned and kind of let myself look back and think over what I've been doing as I give lessons. And that's the way that I've found a way to still feel like I'm moving forward. Because, real talk, I have felt at times this past year like I'm so stuck. I feel like, wow, I'm not getting anything changed. My style has stayed the same for forever. And so, yeah, it doesn't matter where you are in any kind of skill. Everyone feels a version of it because everyone's a person. So, I'm glad you mentioned that, Bird. That really helps. Keep switching between calling you Birb and silly. But yeah. And right here, I'm going to do some practice poses because I'm actually not quite sure what pose I'm going to use here. I've only planned out where the characters go, and now I need to figure out what poses they're in. Some of them, like right here, these two characters, Ging did specifically say, one of them has a sword on his shoulder, and the other one has a sword into the air triumphantly. And I'll still have to go through his notes to change up some of the poses and whatnot. And because it's been so long since it's such a big picture for him, he may have changed his mind. Or heard from one of the people in this commission and said, actually, they want a totally different weapon here. You know, he was using what's this little scythe thing? and he decides, you know what? Actually, can you give me a totally different weapon? Can you give me a mace? Can you give me a machine gun? You know, whatever. And so, yeah, that's why this picture is taking so long. And I am going to test out what my character is. I know what weapon I want now, finally. Not sure if Geen has any limitations, but I think I want my character to have a lightsaber. Because who wouldn't want a lightsaber? It's a lightsaber. I mean, even if my character doesn't use the Force, which would be a pretty big setback, I still think I'd want a lightsaber. So, yeah. Oh, thank you, Cody. And, Hone Edge? Is that... Oh, wait, is that the... Yeah, I'm a nerd. Who cares? Birb's telling the truth. It's no longer secret or safe. Hone Edge... Oh, wait, Hone Edge is that Pokemon... The Katana Pokemon, right? Is that... Am I remembering correct? My Pokemon knowledge is very low. I'm very out of date. I barely know Generation 2. If you go anything past Cyndaquil and Sudowoodo, if you go beyond that... Okay, it is the Sword Pokemon. Yes! Left 4 Dead has helped me there. You guys helped me. Remember to drink something. Stay hydrated. Actually, that's really good. Okay. Anyway. What was I even going at? Talking about this nerd stuff. Jeez. Can't focus. So, I know I want my character to have a lightsaber. If Geen tells me that in this commission, the lightsaber is not a option, he wants to keep it only Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel themed, then I can change it up. I don't think that's the case. Oh, excuse me. Ooh, Dario, welcome aboard. I'm glad you're actually in the chat now. That's cool. Pokemon Tabletop RPG is a samurai that wields a Hone Edge. Yeah, that's cool. I'm slowly learning more Pokemon. And say hi to my friends, Dario, everyone. I'm glad that more and more of you are able to meet each other. That's also a thing that I'm really happy about. Yeah, it feels good. And if he says that a lightsaber can't fit in, I know a couple ways that I could change it to be a laser sword-esque weapon that looks sci-fi but isn't quite Star Wars. I can BS that if I need to. Granted, Geen has Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank. I think both of them are going to be included in this picture, so we're actually going to have Ratchet and Clank alongside Guardians of the Galaxy. So odds are good I can probably sneak in a lightsaber. We'll see. I also don't want to steal the attention if it's like all these characters in their non-glowy weapons and then suddenly my character sticks out like a sore thumb. I don't want that, so I'm actually pretty okay if... Oh, these weird silent burps. I'm okay if Geen wants me to change that. That is perfectly okay by me. I just know I lightsaber. Lightsaber! What other reason do you need? So I'm trying to figure out which direction I want Pin Bun here to be facing. Judging by her pose here, Sorn, she's kind of facing this way. So I think it makes sense for my bun to be facing this way. Told me to stop being gassy? I can't help it. I actually apparently can't. I guess it's because I'm using my diaphragm so much while drinking fluids, as opposed to drinking other things. I don't know. But yeah, yeah, apparently burps are just coming. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jack. Yeah, Hone Edge is in the Left 4 Dead 2 mod that we've been playing, using it as a katana. I never pick it because it covers up too much of the screen. But then again, I also play as Low Bunny, which she's got big fluffy arms, which are adorable, and they also cover up the screen, so I'm not really much one to talk. But yeah, I digress. I think he's going to face this way, which, in figuring out a pose, I'm usually going to do the torso first, just to figure out what their pose is. Let's see. Usually it's really epic and cool to have an arched back. Is that the right term? Arced or arched? I guess arched. If you arch the character's back, that usually looks really proud and epic. If you hunch a character over, they either look tough, like they're being weighed down by muscles, or they look sinister. You know, there's the Hulk, and he's usually hunched over, but a lot of villain characters are also usually hunched over. Depends on the body language you want. I think Penbun here is going to have his back a little bit arched. I can't talk. I'm not a worder. I'm a talker. And see, I can't even do that. I made my comparison wrong. I will continue back to art. So yeah, I'm then going to move on to the legs, which, as we've done with these blobs, I was purely figuring out what's their stance. How far away are their shoulders? How far are their feet from each other? Then we can get into the complicated phase of, okay, how do we draw these weird anthro animal legs and figure all that out? So I think a wide stance makes sense, especially if I'm going to have him wielding a lightsaber. He's right-handed if he's like me. A broadsword? I like broadswords. Yeah, I think a broadsword would actually be a little bit better than a katana. I don't know. It depends on what you're doing. I know there's a show that does... it's not Mythbusters, but there's some other shows that have done tests about how powerful is an actual katana as opposed to what people think. But anyway, I digress. He's going to be right-handed, so I need to figure out a pose where his lightsaber's probably going across like this. Because that pose makes sense. If I have his lightsaber up in the air, that'll probably be really distracting. Plus, it might end up competing with the background here. That's another thing I've kind of decided on here. This goes into composition, which is another thing I think about a lot. Debatably, broadswords are cooler. Depends. I could go into that topic of which I like to draw more, because I had the phase of drawing katanas all the time, and I do kind of like their aesthetic. I like that... yeah, it's pros and cons, as Jak has said. But what you have right here is there are a lot of bright colors here in the on the horizon. I've blobbed out. There's a lot of bright colors here. And so if I have a lightsaber here, you have a bright color against a bright background. So the lightsaber's not going to show up very well. Maybe that'll be a good thing if he doesn't want my lightsaber to draw much attention. But at the same time, if I do want the lightsaber to show up, maybe I want the lightsaber to be a bright color against a dark background. Like, basically, if I switch to a white color here, now you can see the white really well. It's a little harder to see the white against that bright color. This is the biggest example right here. Clearly, this white right here shows up way easier than this one. This one's kind of doesn't show up very well. So, I actually think I'm going to keep a screenshot of this to see what Geen would like. Because, obviously, this is a giant mural. This is a picture for all of these characters. And so if Geen wants this printed for all these characters, and he wants to show... if he wants to show all these characters without one stealing the attention, I might switch it up. Depends on what he wants. And, Jak, it's okay, Jak. You're saying it's the, there's a part of the song that sounds like a xylophone and it drives you crazy as it loops. Let's change up the song. I can remove that. I actually need to find a way to put multiple songs in here. I can probably do that. I have a couple ideas of how to do that. Let's switch to this song. I'll have to change down the volume. Sorry for that blast of volume. I've switched to a different one. Hopefully this one's a little bit easier to listen to. It's one you probably already know. But yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned that, Jak. If I pick a song that's a little too distracting, it will obviously... Ooh, I could do Dodd. I'll do Dodd. Let's add Dodd in here. Let's add Dodd. Yeah, let's add Dodd. I haven't played Dodd in forever. Media source. This is the tiny little break, as I mentioned. Let's name this layer Dodd. I'm doing stuff off camera, obviously, so it's not too distracting. Let's go to... Dodd should be in... There he is. I found him. Dodd, for those who do not know, is a character by... Whoops. Volume was way too loud. Apologies to anyone using headphones. That was loud. And yeah, Dodd is a character of Jak's. He is a adorable, weird little wolf. And yeah, I made a speed paint video, and the song I used, Jak gave me inspiration for how the song would be, and that's the song you hear in the background right now. I can just regularly switch out the songs. I'm actually okay with that. It gives me a bit of a break. So, yeah, it's okay to hear that. Oh, it's the wolf, the Unawolf. Is that wolf language for universe? It doesn't work if you explain the joke, Pen. Sorry. But yeah, so I think I'll be doing most of the pose here, while keeping in mind that I may have to change up where the lightsaber is. So this helps me come up with multiple poses in front of you. So I think I can have a hand on the hip here. That's threatening, right? A hand on the hip. And got a lightsaber. My handy dandy lightsaber. And if you're trying to figure out anatomy in a shortcut, I've mentioned this in multiple episodes, but the elbows line up about with the rib cage of your character, and the palm of the hand lines up with the groin. If you ever need a quick anatomy shortcut to get things on track, it took me forever to figure this out. So I hope that helps. But yeah, when your arms are at your side, your elbows line up with your rib cage, and your hands match up with your groin. That is the quickest little anatomy hack. As opposed to... Anyway. Oh, sorry, I'm so gassy. Bird is asking my biggest pet peeve. Let's see. People who blow into a microphone. Anyway, sorry. I don't want to get too real. I want to keep this lighthearted. What's my biggest pet peeve? God, I don't want to get too real, but everything I think of is way too gritty. Let's see. What's my biggest pet peeve? All I'm thinking of is like really intense stuff or really dumb stuff. I know one pet peeve. Well, I know one thing on my mind constantly right now is the fact that I'm in Texas and I hate the weather. The weather right now is, I think we got to like 109 or something like that right now. And so if you're in a car or anywhere near pavement, it felt like 112, 115. It's really hot here. I'm in a room with an air conditioner next to me, and I'm sweating like crazy. It is really miserable here in Texas right now. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get too real. I don't know. Chores. I really hate doing chores. I hate that I'm such a pack rat. That's one pet peeve of myself that I have. I really hate that I don't like to throw things away. I literally have gotten to the point where I will keep pieces of giant cardboard because I go, ooh, that'll really help to like prop up this piece of furniture and like keep my cat from going behind it. Yeah, that's a good reason to keep this piece of cardboard. I'll keep that over there for later. And then you see my room and you wonder why there's no room for anything. So, yeah. Yakuza's saying, wish to use the AC right now, but it's not allowed for the next 5 hours. Oh, that's such a pain. I'm sorry, Miracusa. I hope that the air conditioning kicks in for you somehow early. And if you have a fan nearby, maybe. I know we have a lot of fans in the house as well. And we even have one of those hand fans, just because we get kind of desperate. It's Texas. So, yeah. The other thing that's a pet peeve is dishes. I hate doing dishes. I have to do them all the time. So, yeah. Because our dishwasher broke, so I have to do them by hand. And, yeah. We try to split them up amongst the family members. But, yeah. There's some pet peeves. Also, when people bring coupons to a store that are obviously expired, or they obviously mention what they include, and yet somebody still insists and harasses the employee going like, but this definitely works, and you read it and it's like, no, it clearly doesn't. So yeah, that was 5 years of Target that made me go like, ugh, coupons. So yeah, there's some pet peeves. Also, if people chew with their mouth open, I guess. There's another pet peeve. Yeah. Or when people... Okay, I do have one more thing. When people leave shopping carts just randomly in the parking lot. That they have those corrals for a reason. You can even just put it up on the curb. That works. It drove me crazy when people didn't do that. So, yeah. Okay, you do have a fan. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, the fan's not allowed either. I mean, yeah, you gotta work with what you got. Yeah. I mean, at times I'm really wanting to close my door because I'm doing a stream and I want the air to stay in my room and keep things cooler. But I need to let the air circulate, so yeah, sometimes you have limitations you have to work with. So I think the hand is mostly going to be at the side, just because it makes sense. The other variation of this pose I'm going to do is where the hand is maybe a little bit up, kind of like you see all the Jedi Knights. You know, whenever you see Obi-Wan or Luke Skywalker, they've got their lightsabers ready. They're always holding it just kind of in the standard sword pose. I might do that as a second pose variation. Notice that I'm doing a lot of lines of motion. A line of action. That's the term that I've heard people say. Line of action. I almost did the quotes again. Line of action, for simple terms, is just trying to get the mood, the flow of your pose, and not worrying about, again, details, anatomy, none of that. Just try and get the feel for this pose. So like right here, I did a really long line here just to feel like this sword is going in that direction. And if I look at it and go, yeah, it feels about right. Or if I tried it again and was like, I think it actually needs to be more horizontal. Yeah, I like that. Then the line of action, which would also be to figure out his pose here. Do I want his hips pushed to the side so that his gait is over here and his legs kind of curve like that? If I wanted that, a line of action, which is this line, helps me feel that. And with the line of action, I might decide his head should be over here. Or even further, if I'm trying to do an action pose. That's what line of action is for. So, quick little thing on that. I use those a lot. There probably are formal ways to use them. If you ever look in tutorials, art school stuff, they talk about the proper way to do it. And maybe that'll work for you. You know, if you see something in an art book that looks professional, or your teacher at your school tells you a certain way to do it, try it. But don't be afraid if later on you throw it away and go, nah. Because, I mean, there's certain ways they teach anatomy when it comes to the torso. Some of them I've kept, some of them I don't. Because of the purpose of what do I actually want and what feels right. So, yeah. Teachers at schools that are trying to do art lessons, they do it for a reason. They're trying to find the most common way that everybody can understand. So don't hold it against them. Especially if they give you a hard time and say, no, you have to show that you can do this way. Go ahead and try it because you might discover why it's useful. And then also on your own, feel free if you don't need it. You know, actually keep what you need. It's good to experiment, but yeah, not to the point where it becomes a hassle. A shortcut that I say all the time, but just in case you've never heard it before with the way I draw arms, is the forearm here. Every time I'm needing to draw a forearm and I want to quickly get muscle shape, I use a triangle. I think Marshall helped me figure out that it's an isosceles triangle, because I clearly didn't pay enough attention to geometry. Even though I did really well in the class, I apparently didn't absorb any of it. Gee, the school system. Ooh, Jack has a question. Okay. And you'll have to send a file in CRUD. Well, you can go ahead and send the file and the CRUD, and I will look at it because I want to hear your question. I'll mention this little point here, figure out the pose. But yeah, we can definitely get to it soon, Jak. I want to hear that. And that goes out to everyone here, actually. If you have any idea or question, just let me know, because the whole point of these lessons that I do every week, if you join me on Patreon for even just $1, I do these every week, and you are the guiding force. It doesn't matter how many people we have in the chat, in the private lessons. I get to everybody, and I try to show you every little trick I know about that topic. So that's the thing we have right here. How am I? I am exhausted. Yeah. I hate the weather in Texas. It's so exhausting. Like, all my energy goes away when I'm in this weather. So it's just like, ugh, I hate it. I was trying to find the lightest color shirt that was clean, and this is what I could find. So yeah, it kind of sucks. Okay, I see what you're meaning, Miracusa, talking about the way you're having to adjust with noise level. I understand that. And Jack saying, no worries. If we can't get to it, I'm pretty sure we can get to it. Telegram will be a little bit easier, yes. And I agree, Bird. I do hate the sun. You know, this whole, oh, I produce life and stuff. Ugh. Yeah, but I'm sweating. I don't like you. I will switch my phone out of airplane mode so I can quickly look at Telegram. By the way, this is completely random, but just wanted to let you guys know, mainly to Silly Jak and all that. When you guys noticed last time we were playing Left 4 Dead and my ping randomly went terrible, it was because I realized I had opened my phone and turned on an app that uses internet. And when I turned it off, the ping got better. What do you know? I have terrible internet. Because I also need to replace the Ethernet port on my laptop before I can even get an Ethernet cable. Ooh, okay. Ooh, that's cool. Okay. It'll actually be easier if I open Telegram on my computer. I just realized that. Oh well, I have a redundancy. So let's open Telegram. Which I do recommend for people if you're looking for instant messaging that you want a different type. Telegram is actually really nice. It's got voice calls as well. It's got stickers that you can upload, which are awesome. I love that. Silly sending me that boop. I saw that boop. I saw that. Okay, so let me save this image. Thank you for that, Jak. Come on, image. I'm gonna save it on my desktop as Jak Dragon Pose. And this is something that we're about to get to that we can also do in these lessons. If you would like to join and support me on Patreon, that helps me create more videos like this. And for the lessons, you can literally upload a picture if you like, and I can go through on the picture and give you advice. Are you comfortable with me showing the picture on stream, Jak? Just asking that as a heads up. I try to accommodate as much as possible. A lot of these lessons are me working on a picture for someone, and so I always ask just in case someone wants it to be kept a secret, kept safe. I butchered the quote. Whatever. Yes, blame pin. What's the command? I haven't used any commands today. Oh dear. There we go. Yeah, it's nice stuff. Had the flu once, coughed and sneezed all night. A few times that night due to noise complaints. Oh, that's bogus. I'm sorry, Miracusa. That's not fun at all. Especially a noise complaint of that caliber, where it's just someone who's obviously sick. Like, oh no, someone's sneezing and maybe they need an air conditioner. That's really, I don't agree with them. I feel sorry. You know, they should change that, Miracusa. Only time I've ever had noise complaints called with me was back in the band. Good times. We were in David's garage, and we had the neighbors call because we were playing metal too loud. Good times. Good times. That lets you know you've made it as a metal band, at least the first step, when you get a noise complaint by a neighbor and they call the police. Good call. Okay, make sure I've got there. As long as you keep it safe, too, then secret is fine. Yeah. Keep it secret. Keep it safe. And yeah, probably gonna have my neighbor call me during Left 4 Dead. Yeah, I mean, it's the reason I kind of wish I could do more like soundproofing. That's why the studio would be so good, you know, an actual recording booth and whatnot. But yeah, let's see. I'm adjusting the pose a little bit. I'm realizing that I made the torso a bit long, so I'm having to adjust the limbs. This won't be too much longer, and then we can move on to the spine to share it in case. Okay, yes. I'm glad you mentioned it as an extra precaution, just in case, Jack. Most of you have been really good about that, and it is important when talking in a live stream chat to give context. I mean, it's when you're caught in the moment, it's easy to just kind of go like, yes. But when someone sees the chat, it's like, what were you responding to? So, I mean, most of the time it's context related. So yeah, I'm glad you clarified just in case. Let's see. So in trying to, I'm going to quickly get to the legs because this is a big, big point to talk about when it gets to anatomy of the anthro animal variety. Because a lot of people here would ask about that, and it drove me crazy trying to learn how to do furry anatomy, anthro animal. If you've ever seen a werewolf or a gargoyle, there's another example where this applies. Trying to figure out how to draw those legs, those really weird legs. It seems to be a common theme that I'm bringing up every episode, but I think it's important just to recap in case it gets easier to understand. The animal anthro leg style is exactly the same skeleton-wise as human legs. It's just that they're standing on their tippy toes. I'll keep it very simple like that. So, if you've got the thighs right here, just like human legs, then you've got the knees, the kneecap. Then you are doing the shin, the lower part of the leg, where the calf muscle and all that is. Then think of a human foot on their hind, like just standing on their tippy toes. I almost said hind legs. On their tippy toes. So here is the sole of the foot, you know, the whole rest of the foot. And here are your toes. If you think of your legs like this, suddenly anthro legs get way easier to figure out. They're still annoying. And I have trouble every time I draw them in some way, or, you know, if I'm doing an action pose, they get complicated. But this saves a lot of time if you just think of them like a human leg where they're standing on their tippy toes. Because technically with an animal, for paws, they are just toes. They basically are toes with a pad, and that's what animal legs are. Mammal legs, I should say. I see Bird mentioned bird legs. I need to research them more, and if I'm going in order of who asked, I do want to mention the feedback on Jack's picture, but actually, I'm going to make a sticky note. Because I have not yet done a tutorial on bird legs, and I probably should learn that if I do a lot of animal pictures. So once I find a pen, then I will write that down right now. I'm glad you mentioned it, Bird, because I do need to learn how to draw. Gee, Bird wants to know bird legs. How weird. Am I right? Learn to draw bird leg anatomy. Anatomy. I'm going to specifically learn how to draw bird legs. How do you draw pen legs? I've been trying to figure that out my whole life. It depends on which form I draw my mascot, actually. Or, you know, how I'm feeling. If I'm wearing my reptile legs, or my robo legs, or my I don't know, insert another joke. The bird legs have more of a curved set of toes. It's mainly learning the bones themselves that gets you everything, because another quick secret I can show here about anthro legs, the thigh and calf muscle, I'll go ahead and color code them for you. These two are often fused when you look at a cat or a dog. What I mean by fused is they're not actually fused. They're not actually fused together. But when you look at the shape of the muscles and the fur, especially all the skin and fur, they curve it like this. So a lot of the times I'll draw it right here if we turn off the blobs. You'll see it where they have this bone, there's the knee, there's this leg, there's the big part of the foot, and then there's the paw. A lot of the times you'll see this. That's the quickest shortcut I've found when drawing an animal, a mammal specifically. You usually see it like this. And so that's where curves can suddenly appear, because technically the bones are underneath there, and it's two different bones rather. But it looks like it's kind of one thing. And that's where I think animals on all fours, you know, quadrupeds, feral animals, can be really weird to draw, especially those back legs. A lot of times people will be like, oh, their legs bend backwards. It's like, no, that's, there you go. There you go, bird. That's another pet peeve I have. When people think that there's some extra joint. There is not an extra joint. There is no extra limb, no extra bone, no extra. It is just in different sizes. There's another huge pet peeve. So yeah, I'm actually irrationally like frustrated with that point. So yay, there we go. Let me go ahead and close Telegram so that I don't have broken internet. And I do think there are probably some curves in the way they're shaped, and like especially their toes. They use a set of toes with their talons. I'm really curious actually, because half the time I would wonder, you know, when you see chicken legs or any kind of bird legs, like, wait, are there bones in there? And I mean, when you buy chicken and you get a chicken leg, it's like, well, clearly they have bones, but yeah, it's weird to figure all that out. So I'm gonna look that up now that I have a sticky note. Okay, yeah, there you go, Jack. I'm glad that applied. Their legs are, if they are legs, cut them off and replace them with bloody, gory nubs. The pen legs do not exist in the art god. I mean, have you ever seen my legs on camera? Do I really have legs? It's a good question. So, yeah. Okay, so let me Control Z like crazy. I think Medibang saves a lot of the steps I did. So let me go ahead and put these legs down. There's a little bit of overlap there when it comes to the legs. One leg is a little bit closer than the other. I do not like that head position. I want the head to be a little further back. I also forgot to put a neck. Telegram is messing with my internet. Is there small bandwidth? I don't know. It's mainly if we have competition in the house, because I am not using an Ethernet cable, and I learned that this Mac needs its port replaced. I can't even plug in an Ethernet cable yet until I get that replaced or fixed somehow. So I also have a household where everybody else is also using the internet, so we're competing. And so when I open Telegram, especially on my phone, that's yet another device. And I've noticed my internet health for the stream goes down. So that's another thing that I just have to be aware of, because it's a commodity. It's a resource that's limited in this house. So that's a big thing right there. Also, I hope I don't look sweaty in on camera. I am drenched. I am drenched. It is miserable. We're actually coming up on the 1 hour and 30 minute mark. Some of that was the buffer at the beginning, but we're still basically coming at about an hour and a half. So after I get this pose done, I will take a tiny break. I will still be on stream, actually, if you guys are okay with it. I will be eating on stream, mainly because I just want to be here to talk in case we have any other questions or topics. And after I've eaten a little bit, regained my stamina, we will be moving on to the picture that Jack wants some feedback on, which I do have ideas for. So I like the pose, too. It's actually really cool. So yeah, come over and fix my network so bad. Yes, please. Yeah, it hurts you physically. Yeah, I would actually like that. Don't come here during the summer, though. Game made that mistake the one time he got to visit. He came here at the 4th of July, and it was miserable. If you're going to come down here at the South, just do it during the fall or the winter, because then it's probably mild compared to what you're used to. To get your food, don't need to starve. I know. I know. I do want to get this pose down, though. Trying to keep the style and anatomy that all the other characters have. Their heads are a little big. Would Penn do better here or in Texas? Referring to where you live, Birb? I do not actually know. I do love the 4th. I do agree there, Jak. And I had a good 4th at the latter half. The beginning of my 4th of July this year was kind of miserable, but it got better. So yeah, I did go see fireworks, and I freaking loved them. I actually have video still that I put over my drive, and I kind of want to post it here on the channel. It's kind of late. It's still July, though. I can get away with it as long as I do it before July. We didn't really celebrate either. We literally just drove to the nearest fireworks nearby. We watched them, and then we drove home. That's it. That's how we celebrate the 4th. I think we bought ice cream bars that I couldn't eat. It was fun. But no, it was good. Nearest airport? There's a couple actually over in Dallas. I'm in the North Texas area. So there's actually 2 or 3 different airports nearby. All of them probably the same distance. Fireworks in your garage. Oof. I don't remember if we even can in Texas. But, which is weird. You think the state that would want to shoot fireworks is Texas, but... what was I going to get at? Yeah, notice that all their heads are kind of big. It's a slightly stylized look, but it kind of feels right. You know, because you're thinking of like a dog. Most of these are dogs and foxes. You know, so the most common theme with those anatomies, that's a word now, anatomies, is that their heads are kind of big. So I am finding I have to kind of cheat the anatomy a tiny bit. Because if I were going off a normal human skeleton and the normal proportions, the head would not be this big. But, you know, we're stylizing it because, again, with art, you want to kind of go for your goal, not just what's realistic. Realism does not equal better. A lot of people get that misconception. There's a lot of times where if you cheat the rules, it looks better than if you did realism. There are so many ways that realism doesn't quite cut it. So, yeah. Purpose breaks it. You never tell if it's thundering. That's fine. I like an active chat. We're obviously still talking, and that's fun. I like that. The only thing I think would be a problem in the chat is if someone was spamming emojis all the time, which I was tempted to almost do just now, just as an example, but no, I won't. Yeah, don't worry. If you guys are talking and just having fun talking, there is no spam in my mind. So don't worry there, Birb. Don't worry there, anyone, actually. If you just like to talk, we literally spent the last episode, last week on Friday, me, Jak, not Jak, you were not at that last one. It was me, Marshall, and Miracusa. All 3 of us were constantly talking about computers, even though it's an art stream. But it was teaching me a lot, and we were having a lot of fun talking about it. So to me, that was not spam, that was productive, so it is okay. Songs, are you talking about... I wonder if you're talking about Dodd, or are you talking about another song? I was looking for a song title in the chat, and I didn't see it. But yeah, that is the pose I think I'm going to do. And the sword, or lightsaber, I should say, will be like this. If need be, I'll make a copy right now. I can change up the arm, the right arm, and make the sword... Actually, I'd probably have to change up a lot of the pose in order to get the lightsaber the way I want. Because the other idea... Let me go ahead and flip it. Oh, wait a minute. Why is there multiple... Oh, I hate when this happens. It says there's another object on screen. There we go. I'm going to flip the pose. Because if Geen would prefer the lightsaber to be up like this, then I would want my pose to be more like that. I would want more of a pose like this. Right hand's probably going to be on top in terms of the way the stance is. It would be like that. You know, the classic holding a sword pose. And notice here, it was a lot easier for me just to figure out where the what the arms are doing, as opposed to, oh, the school taught me I have to do the torso first and then draw the arms. If that feels good to you, go ahead. I'm actually saying stick to the technique you like more. Personally, at that moment, I actually found it easier just to do this and figure out the arms and then maybe change up the arms a little bit so I can figure out where they belong. And then once I've got it right and I go, yeah, that feels good, then I'll go ahead and add in the torso, change it up a little, carve out my lines, and now I have a pose like this. You can add in the shoulders, and then we got a pose. So, yeah. Don't be afraid to mix and match, change it up, and make your own rules. Because at the end of the day, the goal in art is to get the thing that you want to be made, you want to make it. Like, so don't worry too much about if you're following the rules of art. It's all just in there to help you. Okay, another song. Lemon Demon, Touch Tone Telephone. I feel like you've mentioned Lemon Demon before, but I don't know. I'll find out. I'll find out in a little bit when I listen to that at some point. Resting my voice a little bit. Now that I've got the two poses down, I've got a copy of two different poses as you see on here. I can show them both to Geen as an idea, see what he thinks, make sure no pose is competing. Okay, that should be good. So now I can take a screenshot of this and ask which one he would prefer in terms of the background. Means I should probably show the background. There we go. There's another screenshot, and now for a third screenshot, I realized I need to show off the white to imply what I'm going to for Geen. So I want to show him that with one of them, the white shows up, and with one of them, the white doesn't. So totally mixed up right now. Art isn't about rules, it's about being expressive. Exactly. Thank you, Cody. When people talk about art rules, as a heads up, don't ignore it until you know what you want. Like, I would say art rules are there because they usually are effective. When people talk about the rule of thirds, when they talk about contrast and how to make anatomy look good and all this, they're tools that help. They're really effective. What you should do is see if you need them. If you do, learn them. But if you don't worry. So that's the big thing about art. It's like they say rules because they are effective. They're there for a reason. Doesn't mean you have to use them. But yeah. Good song for you guys to check out. Chill Vibes, Tame Impala. Everyone's mentioning songs now. I want to take a screenshot of that too. And I'm about to take my snack break because I am starving. And I'm doing a horrible British impersonation. Where's my snack? Oh, my snack's back here. Hold on. There we go. I will do my best not to do ASMR with this wrapper, but you may still hear it sometimes. But let me take a screenshot of that, make sure I did. Yes, I took a screenshot of the chat so I can listen to these songs. Jack, were you mentioning a business proposal, my new weight loss methods at your disposal? Are you quoting a song? I wonder. I think you are. I do think I know Lemon Demon. I think I do. Miracles is saying, oh dear, just checked your connection to DFW. Yeah, it'd be expensive. Yeah. It's why with Geen, well, I don't know if Geen's method was actually better or worse. Because Geen did a road trip. And that has its own expenses, so yeah. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think I do know Lemon Demon. The more I'm saying it, I think you have shown me a couple songs before. We'll find out. Okay. So now that I've got that, I'm going to save. Make sure I've saved it. And basically the step I'm going to be doing will be going through all of these blobs and chiseling out their poses like this. Granted, I don't think I'm going to be using that one, unless it is the one that he chooses. But basically, I go through and go on to each character and do it that way. And then I can go through and add colors and details and all that jazz. one step at a time. Being able to use normal flights. Okay, I don't know. I've never done international travel except once in middle school. And so my knowledge on that's limited, especially it's been a long time since that. So who knows how the logistics have changed with flights. So yeah, I don't know enough about that. Hope it gets easier. I'd like it to. I know eventually I want to be the one to be able to travel. I know I've traveled in other parts of Texas really, really far. Did a 9-hour drive about a month ago to San Antonio. That was really nice. And then another time we went to Houston a month before that. So I'm slowly building up my stamina. Slowly. Okay, so while we have that on screen as a filler, excuse me, I'm going to go ahead and have my snack. But yeah, the pose that we're moving on to with Jak's character is a dragon. And I'm actually going to go ahead and double check that. Let me look at that pose again. Oh, excuse me. It's like a wyvern on his back. Ooh, I love drawing wyverns. Okay. Trying to get the wings right. Okay. I see a couple shortcuts that can work. Don't worry, Jak. I think you'll be fine on your time. I'm going to be, I see you yelling. I see you yelling about dragon. You don't have to yell. It's okay. Also, avoid doing too many caps. And yes, wyverns are cute. That's a fact. It's a proven fact. Wyverns are cute. Yes, pet, a bird. I saw what you write. I saw what you typed, and I said it. Oops. Wyverns or kobolds? Depends which style of kobold. Because I remember a comic, a webcomic, that I read in high school. Someone had shown it to me. It was all about kobolds. Trying to remember the name of it. If Dario or Marshall or Charlie, if you guys remember what I'm talking about by any chance, go ahead and blurt it out. It was a comic about kobolds. I really liked it. Sam Baker was really into it too, and Cody, Cody Samples, another Cody. It was all about kobolds and their story, and it was freaking awesome. It was very D&D based, but it was kind of its own story. It had a very unique style, and I wish I could remember more about it. It went on really long too, and their style of kobold was really cool. Was it just called goblins? Oh, now I need to Google it. Thank you, Dario. Now I need to Google it. Was it just called goblins? Oh. Were they goblins and not kobolds? Am I mixing things up? They were just goblins. Oh, gosh darn it. Whoops. Oh, I thought they were kobolds. I'm gonna type in Goblins comic. Yes! Oh, I found it! Oh. God, it was such a good comic. Yeah, I'm gonna pull up a screenshot. Don't worry. Don't worry, Jak. See, I bought you time. This is the comic. Ooh, it's got some, I do remember it had a lot of violence. A lot of violent violences. But it was very good. You guys are used to the PG-13-esque vibe here. You don't have to worry too much. I did mess up, and I'm obviously going on my own tangent here. But yeah, it had a very unique style. Here are the main characters. These goblins were freaking adorable, and you really related to their journey. open an image in a new tab so I can zoom in. Very interesting style for these guys, but I loved it. It was so good. Didn't really answer your question. Depends on the style of Kobold, because that would completely change it. If they're they do kind of look like aliens, but it's very D&D themed. And it's an example of, as the story progressed, you could slowly see the art style changing. And yes, they were goblins. Everyone is agreeing they look like aliens. They kind of did. But it was a really good story. Again, very D&D based. Yeah, exactly. I think that's fun, though. And that's why I always like when someone's taking their own style, their own twist on things. Because I'd rather see a new take than something that's already been done. Which, obviously, that's kind of also the scariest thing to do. When you want to come up with something new, but you're like, but no one does that. That's a sign you should do it. Not a sign you should avoid it. It doesn't mean, oh, but nobody does it that way. Good. Then that means you need to try it. So yeah, it's obviously the scariest because then you feel out of place, but that's how you're going to come up with something new and someone's going to like it. It's such a good story. I want to get back into it because it was so good. Yeah, that was completely off topic. What if they're unrecognizable? I think that's probably maybe why he named his story Goblins, so that he could hopefully catch you and go, wait a minute. I know they look like aliens, but they're goblins. And like, I think that's probably what he was doing. And yeah, I don't know. It's kind of nice to. That's probably what actually a lot of innovators do, because I haven't really done my fantasy history, but there are times when people will say, "Oh, here's what a fairy looks like," and someone else will go, that's not what a fairy looks like. When you spell fairy this way and you go into this culture, fairies look like this. You're doing it wrong. And that's probably actually been the case for a lot of creative fields. And like Tolkien, he did like a big like unofficial like claim of like, I don't know, my wording's mixed up. But basically, Tolkien obviously set the stone of like, hey, these are how these races should look. And, you know, he didn't even like have to say, this is how you should do it. He just was popular enough and people liked it enough that everyone liked the idea. And so they just kind of adapted and go, yeah, orcs look like this. Goblins look like this. This is just how you do it. But I think it's great to see a different style, a different interpretation. So yeah, after reading that webcomic for a while, to me, they became what goblins looked like. And clearly it stuck in my head long enough. So I'd say that creator was effective, because when someone said kobold, it's not even the same thing. I thought it was his, so then I went back to his comic. So yeah, if it's something that's unrecognizable, that actually may make it the most unique thing. Therefore, it'll stick in someone's mind. So there's another good thing about making things totally weird. It might end up making it way more unique. So yeah. It's actually a thing I've been kind of flustered and frustrated about with my own art style, is half the time I wonder if it's unique enough, because I'll see myself on like online and be like, does it stand out? I mean, I like it, but at the same time, is it unique enough? And so I have those thoughts all the time. So I think it's really important to push yourself out of the box and do weird art. I'm actually kind of missing it. I need to do more of it, but let me take a couple more bites and then we can move on. Mm-hmm. 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 There we go. Pen, you're safe with your art, hard to mess up animals. You'd be surprised. And actually, that's the point, is that like I feel too safe. That probably sounds weird, but like when you feel stuck, it's this thing in your head of like, I really want to stretch my art style. And so, I don't know. I feel like I'm so comfortable doing paintings that are on the sorta realistic vibe that I really want to like do the craziest art style, the weirdest stuff that you wouldn't expect. That's the kind of thing I want to do because that's the kind of stuff I admire the most. And yeah, I'm gonna get closer to the microphone because my voice is a little tired. That's why I'm taking a break. Well, in terms of fairy, I know it's because if you go far enough back in lore and whatnot, they were tricksters, and they were not pretty little sprites with wings and dancing around and sparkling and yelling at you to check your inventory, Link. They weren't doing anything like that. Fairies were like little, almost demons. They were almost little tricksters that went around and caused trouble. And I don't know. I don't remember if would they kidnap kids. I don't remember what fairies would do, but that's my point. Is like as times pass. Excuse me. And Alex is here. Welcome aboard, Alex. I'm having a tiny food break before I switch over to more lessons. But yeah, that's all I mean is that like I think that's kind of inevitable as times pass, cultures change. And it's because people start gravitating to an interpretation. Like, I think dragons should look like this, and not so much like that. To me, that's the coolest thing. Okay, I understand, Alex. You have an exam in 30 minutes until this afternoon. Yeah. I mean, that's part of why this can also be a good like podcast thing if you're in the middle of multitasking. So, yeah. Which, you know. As a little bit of a teaser for anyone who is here, I told this last time, I am planning a podcast. It's in the works. I have notes right here, actually. Little tiny bit of sneak peek. That it's going to take a while before I have more time for it and actually put it together, but that's something on my mind. Because I know it's easier to listen to something than it is to watch and listen. Watching and listen can be great. But yeah, I'm glad you're able to say hi to everybody, Alex. That's good. Because that's part of this, is to enjoy the company. Tricksters and others were nicer if you could be mean or evil. Yeah, okay, exactly. Brothers Grimm have anything to do with the Grim Reaper? I don't actually know. Good point. Ooh, it's a long exam. I hear you, Alex. Almost done. Doing my best. Not to talk with my mouth full. Are you guys still good on the music? I don't think they have anything to do with the Grim Reaper. Grim is just a word. Maybe there is no connection to it. It's making my brain wonder. I like this though. Almost done. Almost done. This is my eating song. Aw. I'm glad, Jack. That makes me good. I'm glad happy. I'm so happy I do not words correctly. Yeah. And that's why I'm actually, like, doing my best to establish the norms more. Because, yeah, it's, there's obviously a lot we could talk about in, like, various streams we do. These are private lessons, so I'm trying to keep them more on art talk all the time. Obviously, we're still rambling on other topics here and there. And to me, that's still keeping it fun. We're keeping the personality. But yeah, it's good to test things out. We're obviously, as you guys saw on the Jak Rabbit stream, we're figuring out norms and routines that we want. And so things will change. And the more you actually explore it, the more you find the part that you want. You know, you find the technique you want. I think when you're in the middle of the change, it's really confusing. But when you look back on it, it becomes it's such a relief that you did it. And you're like, oh, I'm so glad we tried. So yeah, I think it's always better to be trying new things. And that way you can expand and grow to what you actually like. Because I would rather try something and end up, I didn't want that. it wouldn't be a mistake. It wouldn't be a failure. It would have been something I tried. And I no longer have regrets because I tried it. So, yeah. Because honestly, if we want to get into some more real talk about trying things and not sure if it worked... Aha! Max is here! Welcome aboard, Max. I'm glad you could make it. I didn't know that I was going to do a public one until very recently. And that's why I posted it on Twitter, to let you guys know. It's also why I'm stretching it, because I know people are in different time zones, different locations, different schedules. And we're about to move into some lessons as soon as I'm done with my snack. So no worries, Max. I'm doing these once a month. I do normal private art lessons every week, but I want to have public ones like this once a month to help advertise and promote that I do lessons. And you can get step-by-step help every week on literally anything you're having trouble with. I offer that for literally $1 a month. So yeah, I'm trying to get that out there. It would help me a lot too for any kind of support, because the more support I get on Patreon, the more I can do stuff like this. So if you do want to support me, that would mean a lot. The link is in the description. There's my promotional. I'm learning to do it. I'm learning. Finish my last bit of snack, and then we can move on. Mm-hmm. 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 Hmm. Hmm. There it is. Let's open that character. Hmm. Ooh, we're getting into some good... Yeah, exactly. This is the kind of thing I love hearing. Thank you for bringing that up, Miracusa. And yes, he's dragon. And Max is saying, not sure what you have trouble with at the moment. I understand. And in the current format I have with my lessons, when nobody has a topic that they are curious about, then I just go through on what I'm currently working on and explain what I'm thinking about as I solve problems. A very quick example of what I mean is that there's a piece right here on these characters. They're back to back, but the way I wanted to make sure they do look back to back is that I specifically find areas to overlap. I'm going to specifically find ways to have them overlap so that you definitely know she is in front and he is behind. So there's a lot of ways that I use shortcuts and problem solving as I work. And sometimes I have legitimately gotten stuck and had to like walk myself through something to figure it out. And that's something that you can see in the lessons. And then from that, if you get an idea, we can ask on that. So yeah, and I keep them backlogged, and that helps there. Okay, so there's no grim any of the names for the original language for the brothers. It was Der Todd, or Der Schnitter. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Schnitter. Interesting. I'm not very good on my German, but I am a fourth German, so... And I've been mentioning in the last one I want to learn more languages. At least to be passable. I live here in Texas, so I need to learn better Spanish. And I do want to get better with that. And then same thing with German. I have a lot of German friends that I'm talking with now, so if I can get a little bit of German in there, that would help. Yeah, high five. German high five. Whatever the German high five is. Is there a cultural joke I can make here? Nope, I can't think of it. Yeah, I did notice that part, Jack, about your last name. I think my last name is technically English, like from England. Trying to remember the last name that was German in my heritage. I'd have to ask my mom. My mom is the history buff. I don't even remember it. Yeah, I'm like that with a lot of things, Birb. I'm like, I know I have some Scottish in me, and I have some... I remember, actually, we found out there's some Turkish. And then I'm a fourth Latino, And then I am German and English. Big mix. Big mix. Oh, there you go, Bird. Okay. Oh, this is helping. Ooh, you're half Italian. That's cool. I don't know if I have any Italian. I don't think that was on the chart. My family did a one of those DNA tests. My parents did, at least. And so, ooh, Scottish, Irish, and Finnish. That's some Scandinavian in there. Cool. Oh, that's helping my throat a whole lot. Trying to draw more, just can't. Well, I don't know how often you're drawing, Hattie. So it's important to know that, like, if you don't feel it, if you're not in the mood, it is okay not to draw. I've had actually a couple years where I didn't draw much at all. And I think the older you get, you start to realize that you have a lot more time to figure things out than you think. You can actually have a whole month where you don't draw. And then you may come back to it with a lot of fresh ideas of like, whoa, I never thought about that. Because I had that. I had months where I didn't draw back in 2014. So yeah, it's all about, doing things when you feel like it will help you. And also, if you feel kind of guilty then of like, but I have to draw some, then draw a little bit. You know, do a doodle or two every week. Just do something. Because then you don't have the regret of, I never drew. Yeah, you did. You did a little drawing. And to me, when I need something to get me out of an art block where you don't feel like drawing, that's when I do fan art. You know, there's something to be said for just looking at someone else's art, being inspired by it, and kind of studying it just for fun because you like that art. You know, there's actually a lot of shows and games that I've seen where I'm like, oh, I want to draw fan art of it, but I haven't had any time. So yeah, like that's something to do to get your mood up because it's something you enjoy. But it's like, yeah, it's the same thing there. And then, yeah, Jack mentioning that he hasn't animated in months. Yeah, it's sometimes it's okay to take a break and come back to it fresh because my comic has been on over a year hiatus right now, and I still intend on getting back to it whenever I can. And it's actually helped me rethink a lot of the plot points, a lot of the characters. It's really helped. So yeah, it's important to sometimes pace yourself, slow down if you need to. So yes, Hattie, I would suggest trying fan art to get your mood back up because then it's fun. If it's fun, that relaxes you a lot. Now I see Max said something here. You want to do more commissions, but you've only gotten one person to commission you so far. I have had that before a lot. The first couple years I did commissions, I literally had like, I think 1 or 2 people. And I was hoping sometimes they would come back for more and they didn't. That's kind of normal. It's the internet. There's a lot of people. So the biggest thing I'd say when you're waiting for people to show up on commissions is to make your own commissions for yourself. Basically, keep practicing the things you're offering. With me, I do cel shaded and I do painting. So I will, when I had time to just wait for people, I would do a bunch of cel shaded and paintings, and usually a fan art because it was fun. So to me, in my own little like routine of keeping my mood sane and motivated, anytime I got bummed, that means I needed to do more fan art. And it would be proportioned back then, especially when I was just starting commissions and I was really, really nervous. The more nervous I got and the less I felt good, I just did more fan art because it was fun. Because I was watching shows that I liked. I know I had Gurren Lagann was one I watched during college. That was like, oh, this is so good. So then I did some fan art of that, and like it's important to. And Attack on Titan was another one. I mean, whenever you're like enjoying something, obviously you're in a good mood. So then ride that joy by drawing fan art of it because it's practicing your art, but it's something fun. There you go. It's like the artists in the way that you like what they did. Can you actually pay them? Yeah. Which, not having PayPal, yeah, you have to find another method. And do they have time? Two of the most R's out of the question. Yeah, and there you go. Now we're bringing up history of last names. Robert Logan of godless, drunken, worship man. Okay, gotcha. I'm about to sneeze. Oh, I think. We're about to get into the lessons now. Let me go ahead and open the character. Apologies. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. I tried to point away from the microphone. Okay. I am going to expand the canvas just so that I have room for notes. Let's see. Let's 6 for the width, and let's go to like 5.5. Let's see how that is. It's decent. That works. It's pretty decent. Pretty decent. I think so. Oh, goodness. That sneezing was weird on me. Thank you, Jak. Gesundheit. No, that's a German word, actually, if we go into the proper word, but I can't remember how to spell it. Version without the wings pin. That's okay, unless you want to, in case it has something that would help me. But from this, I can do a lot. Anytime I need to not have the wings, I can quickly just draw over them like this. So no worries there. Let's see. In figuring out, is there anything else here? Okay, there's a little bit of aliasing. That's fine. If you haven't drawn in a while, how long is a while? If it's just been like a couple days or a week, that's fine. So I will try to resist zooming out too often, but that is what I do. You're saying in a couple of weeks, then try drawing something for fun. I think if you feel too much pressure to draw something official or something creative and big, just draw fan art. I know it's like an easy cop-out, but if the whole point is just to practice drawing and have fun, you don't have to post it anywhere. If you feel proud of it, you can. But it's basically, to me, fan art is a way to get your mind out of a rut. Instead of feeling stuck, you get to enjoy the process of making fan art. So, I know on this picture, Jak, you were mentioning you wanted help with the wings. I don't know which parts of the wings. I'm probably going to stick to red. Or let's see if maybe a green or something. Because red looks all like something's wrong. So I'm probably going to stick to some other word here. No, excuse me. Mirakusa, he was saying, when I sneezed, he did a joke of it saying Gesundheit. I know it's actually a German word. Something along the lines of saying bless you after somebody sneezes. You can give us the trivia there since you're actually from Germany and know German. So, prepare small animation tests right now, you're saying, Max? Should prepare for my new grad school in LA. Yeah, I mean, that's a big preparation right there. There we go. Gesundheit. Or do you pronounce the D? Maybe it's Gesundheit. I know my mom's actually a little bit better at saying German than I am, so yeah. Oh, excuse me. I really love this pose a lot, Jak, and actually, I don't find as much to correct, unless you want me to get picky, because a lot of it looks spot on. I love this pose. But you were saying the wings. Is there a specific bottle? Bottle looked like Tabasco sauce. There was a bottle? Did I have a bottle? This one? I don't think this is Tabasco sauce. The wings feel too small. Okay, I can help you make the wings bigger. Let me first slide it over to have room to do that. So let's move him over there. Now we've got some room. I'm trying not to sniffle. The shape might be wrong. Gesundheit is health. See, wishing the other person to get healthy. Okay, makes sense. The snuffles are happening. I don't want to snuffle into the microphone. Ah. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, it said a lot there when you said it. Yeah, my mom says it a lot, so I've always been hearing them say that. And then there's ways of like making jokes. I know I had a friend who loved to speak German, and as a joke to her friends, whenever she would want to say like thank you, she would say donkey chain, making the emphasis to Dankeschön. I always thought that was funny. Actually, there were a couple friends in that loop who would say it, so yeah, I always find that funny. Let's see. You think the wings are too small? And the shape will be wrong? Well, I can tell this wing is at an angle. It's going away from us. And this wing, is that a good green? Maybe we can change it up a tiny bit. Also, I did it on the wrong layer. That also helps. Let's change that. There we go. Oh, apparently it's considered rude if you follow good manners, because it's rude to point out the disturbance in the first place. That's interesting. That gets very formal. I can understand that. I don't know. It depends on the personality, type, culture, all of that. To me, I always think it's really nice to acknowledge someone as opposed to them not feeling acknowledged. So to me, saying bless you or something like that is always nice, at least in effort. It's all about culture and all that. I find that really interesting, Miracusa. That's cool. Thank you for sharing that. I think this is a better green to share. So basically, I'm going to have to make the canvas bigger because there's a lot of notes I actually want to make to help. Some of this may be recap, in case some of you already know things about this. But in case you don't, this will hopefully give you a lot to think about. Because, especially when dealing with a pose that's 3D, things can get really complicated, really weird, because you start getting into foreshortening, which, for layman's terms of foreshortening, if we just have a dragon back and then a wing, and then here's a wing, pretty simple, pretty easy to figure out. But if you want to do it at an angle like we have here, you've got the back, and in this case, the back's also at an angle, which makes it difficult. But then having the wing go far away from us, you have to kind of visualize that this wing is made out of pieces. Here is the small piece, here is the really big piece, and then here is the long but smaller piece. You can see we have, let me change the colors, 1, 2, 3 pieces. Maybe I can change up the colors. 2 and 3 pieces. So therefore, when you're doing foreshortening, you have to visualize 3 pieces overlapping each other because they're going away from us, and that's what happens. So you have to keep in mind, okay, this one's short, this one's a bit taller, this one isn't as tall. So if I go with red, we've got heights like this. You see that this one's kind of in the middle, this one's the shortest, and this one's the tallest. So then when you're doing foreshortening, you have to keep that part the same. No, this is actually very, very good, Jak. To me, I handle stuff like this all the time. I could go through so many notes. It's what I'm planning to do in the podcast. Which, obviously, doing an art podcast sounds really weird. And like, what's the point? How can someone get art lessons if they can't see what you're doing? I'm going to have video at the same time, but I think I'm going to offer it as an audio only in case people want to listen in. And I'm going to do a bit of practice because obviously that's kind of weird, but I think that could be really useful. Especially if people want to listen while they're on the go. It's a little hard to open YouTube if you don't have YouTube Red and you want to open YouTube but still do other things and listen in. I think if I could make a podcast where I'm explaining things, but you don't have to even look, you can just listen to the ideas. To me, that could have a lot of good potential. And again, this actually goes back to what you were questioning. Actually, a couple of you were saying, like, what if something's too weird or out of place? That's the reason I want to do it. I can't really think of many art lessons without video. And to me, that could be really useful, so I want to try that. Penross. I will not hide the fact that I am highly inspired by Bob Ross. I almost said Alex Ross. Different artist, different person. So no, this is not difficult at all. This is something that needs to be talked about when it comes to art, because lessons are different. So this piece is closer to us, so it's going to keep a lot of the same size. And as things go further away from us, they do get smaller. Objects get really small as they get far away from us. The quickest tip I use when making things look like they're off in the distance, like let's say we have a floor, and I want this floor to go in the background. The first line's going to be if I put more and more lines on the page, they're slowly going to get closer together and smaller. Because now I have the illusion of they're going away from us into the distance. And that's what foreshortening is. So when you overlap objects, you have to kind of visualize the same thing. Doing a little bit of a cone shape, and things are kind of getting smaller and overlapping as you go further away. So, the first thing that gets into my mind here is this wing could use a lot more of it if you want to really look like it's far away from us, pointing away from us. You imagine a little cone. It's going this way, really far off into the distance. Like really far like that. So, keeping that in mind, I also would want to emphasize the difference between these two. So, you could either put like a shadow there or put a white space there. So, you actually have some foreshortening happening before you even get to the wing itself. The attachments where the wings are, this attachment's way closer than this one, and they overlap. So, the shape is kind of like this. Let me get more exact. The shape is this. So, if we... let's literally copy it. Let's copy and paste. Let's take that shape and move it over, but then make it smaller. Because I know you're doing a lot of shape adjustments, Jak, and sometimes you can do a lot of like cheating. That's why, again, realism is not everything. I personally, when seeing this, to really cheat it, I would want to have a gap of white space right there. So, to show what it would look like, I'd put a white space gap right there just to really emphasize, whoa, that wing is further away. It's on the opposite side, and clearly there's space between it. Because now that I have this white space, it literally and figuratively implies there's a lot of space between these wings. If without that gap there, the wings look like they're almost touching. So that's one thing I would do, is I'd leave that gap to imply, hey, there's a bit of distance between them. The other thing, okay, ooh, this is good. Let's rotate the canvas. You have a really good thing here that's useful, Jak. Move this microphone a little bit closer to my mouth because I want to keep my voice. I talk a lot. It happens. You've got 1, 2, and then technically the third point there. Those shapes are really useful for implying that they're foreshortened because... is it on its own layer? Yes. If I copy it, move it up. When it's foreshortened... oh, right. I rotated the canvas. Awkward. Urgh. Let's do that. Does that work? It still doesn't. Kinda. Just doing that isn't quite accurate. It also distorts a little bit. There we go. Okay, it's a little hard to see on the screen, but do you notice the transform tool I'm using? It is implying that little cone shape off in the distance. Let's rotate the canvas one more time. It is going off in the distance, so the length of each line has changed. Yes, I will definitely save copies of this for you, Jak. I can do both screenshots or the whole PSD. What are words? What are words? I can definitely send this to you, Jak. And this is the kind of thing that I offer for everyone with the lessons over on Patreon. I'm keeping it as cheap as possible. Like just for $1 to help support me, you get lessons like this every week. And so, you notice with the guidelines here, let's start merging things together so it's easier for me to keep track of. Because we're going off in the distance here, farther away, the length has changed. That now, this chunk, as we see how it continues off in the distance really far away from us, really far away, this line now looks shorter, and this line looks way longer. But when we look at the original, this one was pretty much the shortest. You know, well, it's one of the shortest. It's definitely shorter than this big one. But when we foreshorten, this one looks really short because it's the furthest away. So I would do a bit more of that on this picture too with the wings. You know, I would make sure to include this gap to really imply that they're further apart, and then keeping track of these joints here. Whoops, I clicked the wrong thing. What are buttons? Oh, thank you, Miracusa. Yeah, I do have prizes at the higher tiers. I start giving prizes. You go even high enough, I also have speed paint videos that I do for your pictures. So I'm trying to offer as much as I can. Go from long to short, yes. To keep it to that theme. As things get further away, they get smaller, which therefore also they look squished. So you've got this thing going. Let me erase that line, but keep the rest. What I would do is a little bit of an example that I'll... And again, I will send all this to you, Jak, so don't worry if you're... if I talk too fast and you can't take notes. I'll send this to you, don't worry. Tier means animal. Heh! I like that. That's actually cool to know. What I would change is... I'm trying to stick to green, because green looks more positive. Red looks like there's something wrong, so I'm trying to use green lines. We've got this big line here. So what I would want to do, instead of a big dip, I would really squish it here. And it's going off in the distance, so let's see. How would I angle it? The main thing I would squish is... Let's see. You have a diagonal here where this tip is closer than this. So I still want to keep that the same. So this is further away than this point. Again, like foreshortening can get confusing. So you want to still keep track of like proportions because you're squishing stuff. So tier zoo. Which animal tier? There could be more jokes made about that. I like that. Because mainly, I think it's... I haven't really changed that much. Only thing I've really done is kept the width, but just squished it. Because there wasn't really much like to correct on this pose, actually. Only that keeping that gap there and then maintaining the width of the wing, because it was really wide, I would still keep that width. Because it's not so far away that it would change its size like this. You know, if you had two wings and they're like this far apart, then it looks really far. You know, that looks like it's maybe like 8 feet away. Right here. If you had two wings that are supposed to be the same size, but one looks this small and one looks this big, now it's like that wing is, you know, 8 feet away or something. So I would keep the width you had on the wings and just instead squish them. And then probably, if you like it, add that gap to really imply that the wings are on different parts of his body. Yeah, you're technically right. A lot of it, Jak, was actually just that I was, you know, I know you're kidding. But yeah, I was mainly just trying to explain the ideas. That's all this really was. And again, you're right though. When I use the color red, doesn't it look like there's something wrong? Psychology. It's the reason I'm trying to stick more with green as I do stuff like this. Because when you use green, it just looks like, oh, hey, here's another thing. But if I use red, it's like, oh, something's wrong. It's why I never like that you use a red when you're correcting a test for school. It's like, oh, well now... Yeah, and we're on the same page, Jak. Don't worry. Burps. Yeah, red does blend in a bit too, to the pink. That's a good point. But yeah, that's the only thing I would probably correct. Let me go back to the original pose. Honestly, you might also lengthen it. As I look at it, I think it almost squishes it too much, like his wing is really far away if you have it this close. Personally, I guess it also kind of depends on the goal, because if you're trying to keep him within this shape size, then yeah, you don't want the wing too long. personally, I'm looking at it and I kind of like the idea of having the wing this long. I'm kind of liking that. To me, what does the big, like, off in the distance effect is having this gap. Without that gap, to me, then they look too close. Like, even though you've actually gotten this whole wing shape pretty spot on, the lack of gap is the big difference. Because to me, that changes everything. Suddenly, the wing looks further away. And then all I would do is probably make the wing a little longer. So, you know, it again, like a lot of us have been saying in the chat, art doesn't really have rules, but some of these can help a lot if you need them, depending on your goal, the mission for your picture. So, yeah, that was fun. I'm glad you brought that up, Jak, because I don't know if I've actually done enough, I wouldn't call this correction. It's more like me, what I would do personally. And I guess that's, again, the whole point of tutorials. That's the whole point of all of this. It's taking the way that I've said it, and now you can process it with more ideas in mind. That's going back to what you said, Hattie. It's how to take criticism. Jak can take this now and look it over and see if he likes these pieces. He can take some of them and apply them, and then go, I don't like this part. I'm just going to do the other half. Yeah, I'll keep this part. So criticism is meant to give you more ideas and more options. So yeah, just went to the kitchen to get a drink. The kitchen or a glass full of ice and nothing else. I wonder if it's hot in there. That's because my mom and sister have been getting a lot of ice cubes and stuff like that too. Something I would do if I was super tired. Yeah, I get you there. There wasn't really much else to do. Yeah. Maybe also, I know this wasn't asked about, so I say this with a grain of salt, you don't have to take it, is you've got one of the legs doing this illusion, but not so much on this leg. It depends on what you want, because I do like the width of this leg. It makes sense to have the width this wide for his body type. So I get the vibe of the curve here, but here not as much. So you could keep this calf here, but then curve it like this, if that makes sense. It's kind of an S shape almost, a reverse S. I don't know how easy that is to work when it comes to vectors, but I've seen all the tricks and tools you can do with vector, and it's really cool. Yeah, it's just a little bit of extra there of like, you've got one leg already doing it, and the other leg could do it too. Because yeah, it's just a little bit of a reverse S shape. Because yeah, it is a common animal trait to have these two, the thigh and the shin, kind of blend together in the back like a curve. A lot of them will sometimes just use that flat out shortcut. Exactly. I understand that there's a copy and pasting for shortcuts. I've literally shown you guys how I do the same thing, actually. That's the one thing with digital art. There are some tricks. The downside being that the standard then goes higher for how perfect it needs to look. So it's still really freaking useful. And I'm obviously still using digital all the time. And I've mentioned in the last episode, there's still ways that I think traditional on paper art can be really, 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 really freaking good. I still draw better on there. I learned quicker on paper. So let's see. Higher and too hot makes things bring exactly. The heat is. I'm surprised I've been managing to talk this much. My stamina is starting to pitter patter because I'm melting. But yeah, and I think Miracusa just woke up, if I'm correct. I could be wrong. But yeah, and thank you, Jak. Any more questions you do have, and actually just with other pictures too, I'm happy to cover any of these topics. Sometimes even, there have been times where you've mentioned something, and it gave me something to like go research. Birb did that just earlier today, mentioning bird legs, and it's like, oh, maybe I should go look up bird legs and learn something myself, because most of my learning this past couple years has been as I work on commissions, which you know, there's only so much learning I can do that way, because I had to obviously still stick to the goal of the commission. So within a commission, I try to find ways to like sneak in a little extra learning on my part so I can experiment. Wings aren't too small. To me, it's only the back wing that's too small. The one that's on his right, this wing, that's the one that I think needs to be a little bigger. It needs to be just as wide as this one, because they're the same size and they're not that far apart. To me, the gap solves a lot of the problem. And then I would probably, it doesn't have to be the exact same length. If we look at them, this is still probably shorter than this. So this one is still probably a little smaller, but not by much. Maybe about like 75%. I'm just spitballing. Maybe something like that. He would have bigger wings. Well, see, also, now you're about to get into something that's, I mean, pretty interesting, actually. Depending on how realistic you want him. Because, yeah, if this guy was thrust into I don't know, like a video game or some sort of realistic thing, and you saw his wings this small, you'd think he's using a lot of magic to fly. Because supporting his weight, unless he has a lot of like anatomy tricks that birds do, where they're very like their bones are hollow and they have a bunch of like ways to reduce weight, even if they're big. If you wanted him to look like, wow, he can really fly, that's so majestic, I would imagine his wings being way bigger. Yeah, you could easily make his wings like this size and add an extra point. You could add an extra digit. Oh, if you want me to, then yes. I didn't want to step in unless you're okay with that, Jak. But yeah, I can easily have a try. I was about to say a different word and my brain blanked. Okay. And then I can wind it down after this. This will be the last thing we do. Then we have bees, which defy aerodynamics entirely. I thought I watched a YouTube video about that recently. And by recently, I mean like this year. I actually don't remember much of it. I'm reducing the opacity. Whoops. Oh no, I changed up the thing. Baldy's Basics. Am I Baldy? Or am I some other guy? Am I Red Letter Media guy? I don't even know. I just like that voice. Also, I hear bees and the aerodynamics, and I think of old times, bird. Old times. You'll get that. Why is this trying to change up my layers? You guys can see that things have all gotten weird and wonky, and I don't know how to change them. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. I don't even know anymore. Okay, I fixed it. Yep. Max catches it. Max caught that. What would I probably do? Okay, what would I change for the wing size? I won't do the same patterns. Good, Jak. Okay. I can only go off of who types in chat, so I didn't know there. I won't do the same patterns you had, Jak, because you would be more accurate on it, and I don't want to mistake it. So, really big wings. I know you had this part closer than this part, so there's a diagonal. I can easily imagine a size like this. Okay. Yeah, something around these size. And actually, something that's really weird, but I really like when it comes to these wings on this guy, is having this part really thin. I don't know why, but I just really like that shape. Doesn't have to be that thin, but I don't know. It's really cool. There we go. We can kind of flesh it out a little bit, but yeah. You easily have it this large or larger. There we go. Taking all these blobs and then I chisel them out. It's a lot of the trick I use when it comes to painting. You guys may have already noticed that, but yeah, I like to start with blobs because they're easy to get on the page without worrying too much about if they're perfect. Is the chat full of B-movie quotes? Oh, okay. Nothing defies aerodynamics. The aviation rules were only for small things. They don't use metal things. Exactly. I thought there was something like that. Either way, it's a funny joke. But yeah, I will then use the other wing at a darker shade so that you can see them apart. Maybe even more so. There we go. Let's make him really dark. It won't be as long because it's at an angle. And you do still have the foreshortening happening, Jak. Don't worry about that. Sometimes I think foreshortening can actually be more subtle than we feel like. It's easily one of the hardest parts in art, of any kind of visual art. And yeah, I still struggle with it all the time. Foreshortening is a pain. There we go. Now this is a really weird area I'm running into, because I don't want to just copy, like, have them line up like this. That could look a little weird. Let's see, how do I... There we go, I like this overlap. There we go, because we don't want it to look really weird. I definitely want the overlap, because if I don't have the overlap, there's a... I guess having it a darker shade still solves the problem, but if I didn't have them overlap, there's a risk that these wings would look like they're next to each other, like really close to each other. And so if you're trying to make them look like they're overlapping further apart, then having one wing tuck behind the other is useful. It's what we did over here with, where is it? Right here, what I mentioned that these overlap. It's a way of ensuring that they look like they're different distances. So I think that's probably what I would do right here if you want to make them bigger. And you could literally keep scaling it up and make it even bigger and bigger. These are his limbs. He's a wyvern. A wyvern. You could try changing this shape right here. And actually, looking at it, because I know it's like, if it's like bat wings, then actually most of this would be flat, except for where the bones are. You could do something like that, if I use black to really emphasize it. Here we go. This is super thin, like a bat wing, whereas this has a bone inside. We use a white for the bone. There's a bone inside this one. So you could add a curve right here, if that makes sense. That's another, like, just stylistic thing that you don't have to actually have, but that's something you could do. You could change how it curves. It could go at an angle. That's just another little option that you could do for a bone. The big bone molasses. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I knew some B-movie quotes would get in there. Yeah. Again, there's like... It depends on what you're going for and all this, because, like... Yeah, I don't want to step on the style too much. But yeah, that's probably what I would do for the wings. The only other variation of big wings I would do is making them a lot thicker. Because now I'm thinking about How to Train Your Dragon. They had some pretty bulky dragons with really big body types. And the way they adapted... Actually, in the first How to Train Your Dragon, the main villain at the end of that was a really big, hefty dragon. And he still had enormous wings to compensate for all of his weight. And so, yeah, you could really add big wings like this. Like, you could go... Don't even hesitate. Like, just go really big. And that actually could work just fine. Like this. You could have huge wings. It's just an idea. Obviously, you want to carve them a little bit, but yeah. So there's a lot of ways you could do them, and I kind of still like the idea of having, at the connectors, having them really thin. I just liked that style choice, but you could obviously adjust it as you see fit. Which, yeah, if given my own tangents, I could do a bunch of, here's another variation, but this is really fun for planning out the wings. If you wanted to do more foreshortening on this wing in the back, I can still shorten it a little bit. And you can change the angle. That's actually one thing that's helping that you already had, Jak, is to have one wing going down like this, and this other wing is kind of going off at an angle. That's really effective because it does create some extra depth of like, oh, he's in the flow of moving. He's either like just did a backflip, or he's, you know, gliding on his back or something. So yeah, there's a lot of ways that his wings kind of move around. And yes, I promote that everybody should learn to draw dragons because they're fun. And on that note, Max, I do have some episodes on my channel from at least a year ago where I talked about how to think about drawing dragons. I talked about how to do research on dragons, and then how to try using it to draw your own dragons. So that's on my channel here. If you just go to my channel and search, or if you search PenMark dragons, you know, if you search that in the YouTube thing, you'll find it. So yeah, in case that helps you, Max, I offer it. I offer my service there for drawing dragons. I'll need to do another revisit on that eventually. I suppose that's what this is right now. So yeah. Well, Hattie, if that's how you feel about it, then you should probably try drawing them more, because that's how you get better at anything. Which, I mean, I know that's obviously never the response we want to hear, but that is the answer. It's like, if you feel like you're bad at drawing something, then do it more. Because the quicker you do it more often, you're going to start to notice the flaws quicker. And you can research, you know, how to draw dragons and see what they're doing and going, oh, I never tried that. Because that'll help a lot too. If you look up how other people draw dragons, they might be drawing the head or the wings or something. They might draw it a different way, and then you now have another option. So yeah. Oh, Max, good. I'm glad you found it. Yeah, it is a series of episodes. That was way early on, but all of it's still relevant. I'd have to revisit it and see if there's extra I would add to those videos. I could add a commentary video where I react to my old videos, but yeah, something along those lines. Okay, Max, well, that's something that you could take. And yes, exactly, Cody. You can, and Hattie, you can look back at the dragons done in How to Train Your Dragons, and they have a ton of body types. So the more you experiment and look at other dragons, that'll be your shortcut to figuring out what to do, Hattie, is look up how other people draw dragons and go from there. Yeah, exactly. Okay, because looking at Cody's earlier message, some dragons were really oddly shaped. They have tiny wings and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like there's so many variations. So yeah, I'm glad we got to so many topics in this episode. I even got to draw dragons. I started with a bunch of little anthro characters in space, and I still got to bring it back to dragons. So there we go. We got to about 2 hours and 50 minutes. Granted, we have to deduct the buffer at the beginning where I do my slideshow. I'm gonna try from now on to always chop that buffer off in the editor, because YouTube has a little editor, and if you guys are okay with that, I think it sounds good to chop up the videos and take away that buffer, so that if you want to rewatch a video later, you don't have to fast forward. It just cuts right to the video. I did that on a couple videos right now, and I need to go back and do that to the rest of them, but I think that's a little bit of a courtesy to you guys to help you out when watching videos again. A lot of this has been learning. I mean, clearly you've been helping me, Jack, and Silly figure out how to format our videos, and who knows what other ideas we're gonna try. But yeah, for an on-demand video, the pre-roll becomes a little distracting. So I think I'm going to go from now on, after a video has aired like this, I'll give it an hour to process, and then I'm probably gonna crop off that pre-roll. So thank you. I'm glad to hear that that feedback, because yeah, I'm trying to make most of my changes based off of what you guys are after, because then that's effective. Let me save this as a file, Jack. So let me save this. I'm going to save it on my desktop as a PSD to make it easy for you. I'm labeling it Jack Dragon Pose. And it will save, and I will send that to you. I'm really glad, Jack. Also, well, Yeah, I'll just mention it in Telegram. I was about to mention something else. I goofed. Just gonna give a heads up to you, to Jack and Silly. I goofed. You'll find out in a second when I let you guys know. Maybe over on Discord, it'll make more sense. But yeah, I goofed. I was in a hurry on something we did, and I goofed. You can blame Pen. I messed up. It just means we'll need to do the thing, another time again. So that time I can prepare. But we've now almost hit 3 hours. Really long stream here, but I tried to make sure that there's a lot for you guys to see because I don't do public lessons this often. But this is a way to include you guys and hopefully, you know, give you more incentive to support me. I hope you guys have already been enjoying the lessons and streams and games now. All the stuff that we're doing, I'm trying to help you guys enjoy the variety while still building a theme. And yeah, even if you're not interested in lessons and you just want to support me, it would mean a lot because I'm trying to make this more sustainable. Right now, I'm starting... This is a little bit of trivia, a little bit of... not trivia, behind the scenes. I am looking at the point of maybe needing another job because right now commissions and Patreon aren't able to sustain me full-time. So Patreon is definitely going to help me be able to do more lessons and streams and stuff for you guys. Because, yeah, at the moment, I'm looking at needing a second job. So I'm still figuring all that out on the side. I'm going to do my best not to interfere with anything we have here because I want to maintain the normal streams we have, all of that. But you guys should know that just because, you know, you deserve to know all the transparency of what I'm up to and everything on there. So, yeah, I agree there, Miracusa, is that it becomes a little bit of a... the pre-roll becomes really distracting. It takes away from the experience of someone clicking a video, maybe excited to see what's going to be, and then they just see a bunch of pre-roll, and then having to click through it can be a little distracting. Yeah, I almost said Mark. All these names in my head. But yeah, thank you all for watching this video. I'm going to go ahead and wind it down because we went pretty long. When they're private lessons, I often try to keep them around an hour. Unless people are really, you know, have a lot of time and are here in the chat ready to see a lot, then I'll extend it. But for a lot of these, I try to keep them a little shorter just so that we can keep them in a manageable size for watching later. If you do enjoy these videos, I offer them every week, every Friday, over on my Patreon in the link in the description. Earlier than when you showed up, Max, we talked a lot about this picture over here. We talked about a lot of things, actually, and I can delete that food break. Where is that? Let me go ahead and delete that thing. I don't need that there. But yeah, we talked a lot about this picture, which I originally started a long time ago. It was one of the first things I actually streamed over on here on YouTube. So yeah, it was really fun to come back here. I talked a bit about some tricks for the background, tricks for making things 3D. And then we moved on to poses and dragon wings. So yeah. And an extra bonus for people over on Patreon. When you subscribe on there and pledge even just $1, I also have them all in backlog on a playlist. So you can literally watch any of the episodes I've done. We're now on 26. And I just remembered, right before we end, I've got to do the art shuffle. For those of you who don't know, one of the things that's included for $5 or more on my Patreon is that I give away prizes every week. We call it the art shuffle because Patreon doesn't like the idea of a raffle because they think it's a form of gambling. So in order to have that, we're doing an art shuffle, which is good because it means I'm just taking turns. We're shuffling the order. But basically for $5 or more, I give prizes. And so we just, every week, we're giving someone a prize and we shuffle through them. We're about to start the new cycle. And this is a routine that we have here at the end of every lesson. So let me go ahead and click over to the correct view. There we go. Let's zoom in. So let's... Hello, I'm a dragon. And to catch up on that later. It wasn't away at work. I understand that. But yeah, let me go ahead and change the format just a tiny bit. And we will start this week's Art Shuffle prize. I'm going to look at the stats, make sure that the shuffle has included. Yes, we are resetting the shuffle words. So now we're going to create a new shuffle. And everybody, except a couple people, are included in the shuffle because some people are changing up their Patreon tier levels and status. So right here, we've got the new shuffle about to be started. So there are 4 people here. This is number 26 because 26th episode. Don't worry, Max, I understood that. I get a lot of autocorrect trouble myself because I can't type. I'm terrible at it. So continuing on here, everybody except Brandon, because Brandon won the previous one. The way we keep it fair is that also each time somebody wins an Art Shuffle prize, I put them on pause so that they don't win 2 in a row. Looking at the rank, yes, you do have 1, Jak, which also I have an icon for you. There's an icon I need to do for you because of your tier level. So you'll need to let me know about that in the future, Jak, which we're almost done with your commission, so then we can finally get on to other pictures. And yet another thing I do with these shuffles is that if you rank up multiple shuffles that I owe you, instead of getting multiple pictures, you can use them as a discount for a big picture. Because normally they are cel-shaded smaller pictures for these shuffle prizes, because I do them every week. And then if you want to get a big picture from me, I can use these shuffle prizes as a discount. So that's yet another thing that I offer for this, just in case. So let's go ahead and move on and see who wins this week's Art Shuffle prize. Number 12, that is in Miracusa. I'm going to go ahead and type it in here so we can do the little animation. Miracusa has won this week's Art Shuffle. So let me also get my handy dandy pen and mark that on my page here. Alrighty. Now, and just in time for 10 o'clock here in the Central Time Zone. So now I have marked. It also is, there's a little stats page inside here, as you see on the left. But yeah, I also mark it on paper just to have as a backup. And yeah, I've got them tallied up, Miracusa, and your second reference sheet is on its way. So yeah, you can let me know what you have in mind for these, and we can use them as discounts for future pictures, or I can give you the pictures that I owe you, whichever one you want. Recently have used one of them. Not allowed to have less than 3, it seems. It seems like it. Honestly, you can use all of them. It's all up to you. I'm trying to be flexible so that I can accommodate for whatever your goal is, because I know each person who's following for art on this, for the prizes I do, there's different prizes and different sized prizes. Some people want, I know Gein's also wanting stickers and stuff like that. So I'm trying to make sure now there. All right, Hattie, I am sorry to hear that, but I hope you do well. Sure to practice that art. But yeah, we got this shuffle down here, and I got it to 3 hours. I made it. Pictures are worth more to me than discounts. I'm very glad to hear that, Miracusa. I'm definitely trying to catch up because there's a lot of pictures to do. And with you, Max, when saying you're still nervous about commissions and trying to get more traction, it just means work on them as you're waiting. So basically, I think the good way to look at it is that you get to commission yourself. It obviously isn't still being paid, but you get to commission yourself for your own pictures of like, what would you like to see? And that way, people can also see all of these pictures over time. So even if it takes, you have to wait 3 weeks and you're like, oh, it's been 3 weeks. Now you've had all that time to draw a bunch of pictures for yourself. Yes, do more art in each example that you offer. So if you offer sketches, flat colors, and detailed. So let's go with something basic like that. If you have sketches, flat colors, and detailed art. Be sure to do your own examples of whatever you like in each of those, because it's really useful for when you're showing off your art to a potential customer, having on your price sheet multiple examples per style. So actually, if you can, it's really useful to have like 5 of each or 10 of each. And obviously that's a lot of pictures, so then it means lots of art that you get to do for yourself. That's the way I took it, and hopefully that makes sense and can benefit you, is think of it as that. Think of it as like you get to draw for yourself while you wait, which is a pretty good plus. So that's a way of being productive. Keeps you motivated because you're doing your own fan art. Yeah, that's the way that I've taken it. Oh, my microphone was tilted. So that's why I was so soft. I've got a new stand here, a little one of those little arms attached to my desk, and it's weird sometimes, so I apologize there. Might have to add a little piece of tape right there. I've been doing art. You want to do more model sheets and full color pictures, especially for upcoming videos? Yes, concept art is really good. There's some concept art that I want to do that I haven't had time yet because of all the commissions I'm doing. So yeah, which, I mean, I'm not going to complain. That's a very good problem to have. But I agree with you that, yeah, doing a lot of concept art can be a great way to then have more examples. And you drew for yourself. So it's 2 stones with 1 bird. You get to do multiple things for multiple goals. So yeah. This is the kind of stuff I like to share all the time. I try my best to basically share from the lessons I've learned and the ways that I kind of, you learn the hard way sometimes. So yeah, it continues the effort of like all this stuff I learned. Now you get a little peek, a shortcut as to what I learned from all of that. Because some of this took me years. Some of this I struggled for a whole year going like, I don't get it. What am I doing? So hopefully this makes it a lot easier for you and saves you time. Alrighty. And yeah, concept for special projects too. That can be really fun. Secret projects. So alrighty. I need to go ahead and get some food because I have worked up more of an appetite with all this talking. And we got to 3 hours, so that was good. Thank you all for watching this public episode. This was the second public stream I've done when it comes to lessons. Hopefully it was interesting enough. I tried to make sure I could pack in as much as possible. And I will definitely chop off the pre-roll, the little slideshow at the beginning. And yeah, next week's will be a private lesson. But the next planned public stream is Sunday with me, Jak, and Silly. If anything changes, I'll post a tweet about it if anything changes. But the next planned public stream is on Sunday with me, Jak, and Silly. We'll find out what we're doing, because half the time we're just making it up as we go, experimenting. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy that, and we will see you all next time. Thank you all for watching, Bunny Buddies. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.